Welcome back to the Mid-Season Invitational. We're on day 4 so far of the Mid-Season Invitational. And if you look at the bottom of the screen there, you can see there's a promotion available at SteelSeries. Now, go over to steelseries.com, type in SMITE20 for 20% off as a discount towards the products you want to purchase. Make sure you go do that. But with that, it's time to move on to the second phase, well, the second half of today, I should say. The second semi-final is about to begin, and it's going to be two very big teams to talk about. Dignitas and Renegades. And to join me to do that, once again, is none other than Ryan Aggro Bailey.
You know, I tried to go and put Smite 60 for 60% off. Yep. It did not work.
I put Smite 100 and I got 100% off.
No way. Did you really?
Yeah, but that's because it's me.
Oh, well.
Yours works for Smite 13.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, I should just use Smite 20 then.
No, it won't work.
Oh, okay.
Not for you. I'm sorry.
Well, you guys at home can use Smite 20 at least.
Yeah. Renegades, though, back on track. Renegades have been a team that we've been looking forward to seeing their performances. And to be fair, yesterday, they had quite the performance.
They really did. They looked phenomenal up against PK. And I think that this is a team that has that extra level of play, that extra gear, so to speak, that can take down anybody in the field. But then you look at some of their matchups against the top end of the SPL during the regular season, and they fell a little flat at times, and so you don't really know which Renegade squad is going to show up.
Honestly, this is definitely a team that I feel plays up to certain teams, and it's a bit weird saying that because I feel like we're saying that about a lot of teams this year, but their performances can fluctuate based off the opposition they're up against.
Sure. I think my disconnect there is that usually that means that they play poorly against the lower end teams, and Renegades really don't. They beat the lower end really consistently.
I think what I was going for with that is the fact that if they're against a heavy European roster of players that have come from Europe, they seem to do a lot better than against the North American counterparts.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit more familiarity for
That's
them
where I'm at, yeah.
Overall, but
Cherryo yesterday, though, on this Carly, he was just a different beast.
He was great, man. He had so many huge stuns, and look, we think of Kali as this insane late-game hyper carry that one-shots everybody once she gets the opportunity to with 6 items. But that really wasn't the way that Cherryo was making her look yesterday. She was kind of a setup god, almost. Those stuns were really, really key. He was buying time with that ultimate, and then still has, of course, that potential to wipe your whole team if you let him.
Well, I forget who said it in the interview yesterday, but the Renegades were talking about how Cherryo had changed his playstyle with Carly for that set against Knights, and those adjustments is what the reason for the knock-on effect was for finding that win.
I mean, he had so many multi-man stuns, and that's it's not a big one. Incense is pretty small, but he was able to make game-changing plays with that, and I think that when Cherryo is running hot, Renegades look basically unbeatable.
Completely agree. And if you actually see what Cherryo was talking about yesterday in terms of social media, he was tweeting out himself about how he was very nervous going into yesterday. He felt his heartbeat going. Sometimes that is an edge that you actually need in competitive play to get you into that mindset.
Yeah, Cherry's a player that leaves the emotion on his sleeve. You know, you can really tell what he's feeling. He's a very emotional player, and I think that's a great advantage for him as long as he can keep the negative sides of that under control, which takes some time, but he's been in the league for a while now. He's gotten a lot more LAN experience, and I think that we're seeing him be able to control that side of him a little bit better.
Emotional side from Renegades is no real surprise there. It's definitely one of those teams, and one of the players that enjoyed the celebratory factor beating Pittsburgh Knights yesterday was iRaffer, and he's standing by right now for an interview.
Here now with Renegades, iRaffer, and first things first, Raffer, how's the team feeling walking into the set today up against Dignitas?
We're feeling great, obviously, after the 2-0 yesterday, so we're going in with strong momentum, so we just want to carry this on to Dig.
And the team's progression throughout MSI has definitely not been an easy road so far, but you guys have been making it look that way. Has it been expected results so far?
I mean, we have the hardest bracket, I believe, and we did expect to go a 2-0 versus PK. Maybe not as easy as we did, but we're hoping to do it against Dig, obviously.
Well, anything that you guys want to add? Because you know that it's Splice that's waiting for you if you do make it through this set. So what are some of the thoughts surrounding that if that does wind up happening?
We scrimmed Splice quite a lot, so we're not surprised with how well they've played. I don't know if we qualify to finals. I don't know how they're going to go because they're a crazy team. And I look forward to playing them if we hit the finals.
Well, definitely excited to get into the action with you guys here today up against Dignitas. Best of luck to you in the set, and back to you guys on the desk.
Thanks a lot there, Taco. Yeah, composed interview from Raffer there. Nothing too crazy. Sometimes he can definitely just be off the
Wild
cuff and
card.
say what he's going to say, but there he was very respectful of this Dig roster, I'd say, and also the fact that maybe he does get to play Splice tomorrow.
Yeah, and
not guaranteeing it.
Don't forget, I mean, this is a team that gave Dignitas their first loss of the phase, and Renegades were all about, we're beating Dignitas, and they came out and did it. I believe it took them 5 games. It was a close set, but they were able to get the job done, so you know that they're certainly capable of beating this team.
And speaking of Dignitas, we should move on to them now. And that, like we said, the first time they lost this year was against that Renegades team. So for them, this is a big matchup too. They want to make sure they can try and answer back that loss they had earlier this year.
Absolutely. It's one of the losses that made it so that they're in this half of the bracket, basically. Otherwise, they would have been where Rival was sitting, that and their loss up against a United. But overall, I think this is a squad that just is locked in right now. They look really, really strong. I think that that loss against E United towards the back half of the phase, week 13, kind of refocused this team, kind of a wake-up call for them to see, it's time to start the ball rolling again and get ourselves in the right mentality.
Trixtank on your screen there as well. Now, honestly, I think this is a big year for him. If you think about the performances Trix and Q have had through the years, the last 2 on this Dignitas roster, they did feel a little bit leashed, the sense of themselves in terms of what they were able to do and bring out for their team. But this new age roster with Hurriwind and Ataraxia in tow, they seem to be a bit more free, and it's starting to show that Trix is a lot more comfortable than he has been for a while.
I loved this Bacchus from him yesterday,
Great
and that's
pick.
certainly not a standard pick right now in the meta, but one that worked beautifully for him. He certainly fits well on these really aggressive gods like Bacchus, like Erlang, Shen, and I expect to see more of that today.
Trixtank is definitely one of those people that reminds me a lot of a Raw's playstyle. Those two do kind of go hand in hand, both like the aggressive support options. They can both be very good at peeling when they need to, but they have the potential to solo people themselves.
And don't forget, I mean, Trix has the other side as well. Loves to play the Khepri and plays it very, very well. He played it this year. Wouldn't be surprised to see it come out in this set because we know iRaffer likes it as well.
Well, let's head over to Dignitas and see how Hurriwind's feeling about today's matchup.
Here now with Dignitas' mid laner, Hurriwind. And Hurry, it's been a pretty interesting Season 6 so far for you and the guys here on Dignitas. What are some of the thoughts surrounding MSI and your development over time as a team?
Well, MSI is one of the 2 tournaments this year, so it's sort of like a place where we can decide a benchmark for where we think we should be at the halfway point throughout the year, like on the way to Worlds. So it's kind of just an exploration thing for a lot of teams, I think.
As far as confidence is concerned, how do you guys feel about being up against the Renegades here?
Well, we lost to them in the regular season. It was 2-3, so it was a close set. I think we were also kind of at the time like on a downtrend. I think at the time we're kind of on an uptrend. So assuming they stayed around the same level, which I think they have, then we should have the advantage.
So what can we expect to be the set results for today then?
I think they're a good team. I think it's going to be a 3-2 for in our favor.
All 5, you heard it here first with Hurriwind, but let's see how Dignitas really develops up against Renegades, and back to you guys on the desk.
You know what, Ryan? I've really liked Dignitas this year. This team of Dig, for me personally, I just like what they've said more than anything else. They've been very straight up about how they felt. Even when they were winning at the start of the year, they were realistic. They weren't getting as much, advantage and learning experience as they would want. They didn't improve as much as they wanted to. And there, Hurriwind saying about this is a benchmark moment is very accurate.
I think so too. And look, already to get into the semifinals, you're looking good. It's not like you failed the test by any means by making it to semifinals at MSI, but they've only had to play 1 set so far. So I don't think going 1-1 is what they're looking for at MSI. They want to at least make it to the finals.
Definitely, but to do that, they're going to have to get through this Renegades roster here today. And it's going to be a big matchup between the two. It did go all 5 last time. We mentioned that earlier on. Even Hurriwind there expecting to go all 5 games as well. I think there's going to be a little mini meta that develops here that could pass on towards the finals against Splice tomorrow.
And last time the meta that developed between these two was that Khepri pick, where iRaffer started picking it up and Dignitas didn't have an answer to it. That forced Trixtank to play it.
Is it still potent though in the meta as it stands right now? Because from what we've seen, it seems to be more about the buff invades a little bit earlier. Khepri's not as great at that in the early game, but he does transition well to mid.
No, he doesn't do it quite as well as some, Circat or Najah supports, but I think he's fine at it, honestly. Yeah. I really wouldn't be surprised. I would be a little bit surprised if we saw him game 1, maybe even game 2, but game 3 and onwards, I think we'll start to see that sort of underneath the surface pick
I don't think Dig and Renegades want to be here all day. We've already got 2 bans in for each team, and first pick Merlin. Zhong, take that away from Variety. Chronos, well, you can't give that anyone. And then, obviously, you've got to take Freya away from Funballer. We saw that yesterday.
Yep.
And AMC too, so pretty much meta bans for the most part. The Zhong is very just specific, I want to say that.
Yeah, it's the standard first pick off ban. You want to leave open something that you value very highly, but you don't want to give Dignitas a pick they like, but wouldn't pick very early on. Erlang, King Arthur, certainly not too bad, though, for Dignitas.
No, not at all. Nice little frontline composition between the two. Erlang, flexible. We've seen Trixtank play, and even in the replays there, but definitely available for QvoFred in the jungle, just like Scream did earlier on. Jormungandr and Anhur locked in for Renegades immediately. Dardez on Anhur, Merlin for Funball, I'm expecting.
I'd agree with that 100%, as well as Nika getting that Jormungandr in the solo lane, so I like where Renegades have gone. These are comfort picks, basically across the board. Maybe not the Merlin for Funballer, but still has that potential. No Chronos for Ataraxia to pick up to have that same magical ADC sort of feel. So maybe Dignitas to go for something else. Yep.
Yeah.
Jing is the safe option.
Definitely the option we'll see. Now, we saw a little bit of malice out of him yesterday as well. He explained himself too with the fact he's had a couple of buffs recently. Going to get maybe a little bit more in future patches coming up with how mid-season's looking here. Crit is on the cards, and we saw Cyclone earlier on show his RNG look of those crits, so no real surprise to see it picked up here.
And like I said, I really like Crit up against Jormungandr because he's so big. You're hitting just about every auto on him, and he's usually not building that much tankiness. You almost never see Thorns on him. It's always Aegis or Sprint or something to give him a little bit more survivability, and he's going items like Stone of Binding and Gem of Isolation to try and deal some more damage, so your crits actually end up being quite significant.
Well, Dignitas immediately snap ban in the counterban phase, that Carly away here. And Renegades now have a decision about where they want to focus on. They could expect the Erlang to be in the support role or the jungle, so they may need to focus on some supports here. Or maybe they want to try and push Erlang into one of those 2 roles with how the bans go.
Yeah, I mean, Trixtank's played the Erlang Shen. He did it yesterday, I believe, but just still feels like a QVO god to me. Maybe you ban things like Circuit to try and keep that flexibility away as well.
You know, I wouldn't mind the idea of a Raven here, though, for QvoFred as well. Raven hasn't seen too much play just yet. It's very good against jumping down onto the likes of Merlin or Anhur if they're going to try and escape after the fact.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea, and Qvo's got one of the best Ravens in the world for sure. No Naja as well. A little surprised it isn't a Hunbats ban. I really thought Hunbats was going to be where Dignitas lean. Maybe they can pick Hunbats on the outset here, right after the ban phase, leave Trixtank the Erlang Shen, and then where does Cherryo go? Probably to Da Ji from this spot, but Da Ji's not even too bad here against King Arthur Erlang Shen. I kind of like that pick. So Cherry's got some picks, I think, still that he can still go for.
And Renegades still have a little bit of flexibility in their composition as well. Don't be surprised if Cherryo does go to maybe even a Guardian in that jungle position too. He's not scared of doing so if required here. Oh, even Jormungandr. I was going to say out of the blue, maybe a Jormungandr support, but I just don't see iRaffer on that one at all here.
Nika's been King Arthur / Jormungandr
Yes.
2-trick, basically all split long, and he's looked phenomenal on both of them. So I don't think there's any way you want to take him off the Jormungandr in this game.
Dignitas then with their first selection, and it'll probably give most of the game away here. It also gives you the indication of who they're trying to save that last pick for, more importantly. Feels like they've felt left Hurriwind's pick available to him if they've not got a priority Merlin or a priority Ammuz and Carb or something in the mid lane. It always feels like they kind of hold that if they can.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see Hurry on the Zeus or the Opwash, 2 gods that he does very well on, but have just atrocious matchups against Anhur, who really just jumps on you basically every wave. And it's very, very hard to survive. So now Hurry's got to kind of go for a different direction. I wouldn't mind picking either for Trix or QVO, wherever the Erlang Shen is not going, and then leaving up maybe a Giannis 10th pick.
I was going
to
mention maybe a Giannis, Medusa as well, but I think the Fafnir ban from Renegades definitely just made sure Trix couldn't go for that potential route a little bit here with the attack speed compositions coming through. But they are lacking magical damage too, Dignitas, so maybe they can't really look for a physical here.
Yeah, I don't think you can go for physical against that sort of comp for Renegades. It makes the physical stack too potent for Jormungandr. You want him to end up building a little bit of damage.
Hell, being hovered over here for Dignitas. Definitely still flexible. I want to say it would go to solo, but King Arthur locked in. There's nowhere else King Arthur's really going to go this game. So that will be a hell in the mid lane if it is locked in here. How do you feel about that?
I'm just a little scared because Cherry would have the option to go Odin. and play it and have a tanky sort of setup character in the jungle that he does very well with.
Three gods can't escape the cage
Yeah,
either.
and Jingwei needs the ult, so even she doesn't have great escape options. I think Odin looks awfully good here for Renegades.
He does look good, but will he be selected? I mean, even the fans at home have spoken about how Odin can be useful, but I don't think anybody really feels the value of Odin these days. The ring nerf, in terms of its duration, seems to have really made an impact.
It definitely did, but I just think that there's the you know how it is, Graham. There's these phases that you go in and out of where, oh, you know, don't pick Odin, he's not any good, and then you get 4 people in a cage and kill them all and win the game, and you're like, oh, this isn't too bad, actually.
That's what it does again.
Yeah,
well,
not a bad idea.
Renegades actually hovering over the Horus and a Bastet pick as well. Definitely good chase potential with a Bastet and the kitties. Obviously, the constant dot effects can be useful, but against sustain, is that really that good?
Yes, I think they are. I think Bastet cats are excellent up against Hell the majority of the time. You really need to get on top of her early on. You can build anti-heal beautifully on Bastet. The cats can give Hell a lot of problems, though eventually she clears them pretty easily because she just does so much damage. But I think that it could be a decent pick here up against the Hell. I don't know. I don't love it against the rest of the comp, though, so I kind of would prefer to see a different direction.
Well, Renegades really not showed themselves. They're switching off that pick for the time in towards a nemesis for the jungle position. Horus definitely locked in now. No real surprise to see that. I expected Horus to come into the play eventually at some point once the players got to grips with it a little bit more. How do you feel Horus has done so far?
I think he's done well. I think that we haven't seen enough usage of the ultimate in creative spots, and I think that's the hardest part of the kit for sure.
Yep.
But the way that his lockdown just sets you up for such easy kills has really been put on display.
Well, the last pick was that Bakasura there, and I guess we need to talk on that real quick, so we're not seeing Baka in a little minute or two. How is it looking in this composition?
Yeah, it's the other way around from the Bastet, where she wants to anti-heal you, kind of whittle you down. Bakasura is the, I don't care if you're healing, I've got too much damage for you to handle. And Hell has a hard time getting away from him. I think it can really work for Cherry.
And last pick for Dignitas is actually going to be the Bacchus. We saw it yesterday for Trixtank here. Not often do you see Trix get a support last picked for him, but I think the game was really around, do they think it's Erlang in jungle or support?
Right, and holding that pick to 10th is totally fine. The Bacchus is fine in this situation. I don't think it provides a whole lot of peel on the Bakasura, though, and that's pretty concerning to me. I really am not in love with Dignitas' comp.
I'm a little bit worried about the Bakasura Horus all-in composition of Baka jumping in and Horus is there to support, and then once he gets there, he's also got the knock-up and the stun that can cause even more problems.
This is a huge game for Hurriwind, and I think Dignitas honestly put a little bit of too much unfair pressure onto him with this composition. He doesn't have a whole lot of help from the peel. Qvo's probably going to be on the Merlin and Anhur all game long. Hurry's going to have to try and survive this Jormungandr, Horus, and Bakasura, and that's a tough task.
Renegades early game, though, I mean, that's more focused on Baka just trying to strip buffs and not necessarily fight in that early game, right? Compared to, you know, the Erlang Shen Baka's composition.
Yeah, Renegades usually don't fight particularly early on. They really like the mid-game Gold Fury fights, the later-game Fire Giant fights, and I think this composition fits very well there. Normally, I would say Anhur might end up falling off, but Dardez has been absolutely lights out on this pick, including into the late game, so I've got no concerns at all for Renegades selections outside of that Bakasura, because it is a bit different than Cherry's playstyle.
This is a best of 5. Let's see who's going to take game 1. It's Renegades, it's Dignitas, and it's the casters.
Azariah, Hindu man, and aggro. Great job on the desk, as per usual. But we're here for the big show. This is going to be an all-out barn burner, to quote an old friend. Renegades, Dignitas, these guys, Dignitas. Trixtank said before this match, we're known for our 5-game sets, and I think we just might be in for it. Me and Anatoly on the cast. We will be your hosts here for this next competition. Doug, of course, bringing the action by way of camera. So, Toly, you look poised and ready to talk.
Yeah.
Let me hear what you're excited about.
So, like you said before, how the interview, they were talking about how many 5-game sets that they've had. In the course of the 9 sets they've played, 5 of them went all 5 games. They've won 3 of them up against Rival, Splice, and SK, only losing to the Renegades and E United.
And, you know, watching how the way Renegades played earlier in the tournament, I think this team is a lot... They're just looking better than the last time they went up against Team Dignitas. And, you know, Dardez has his Anhur. This is all he seems to play, and it's not because he's got a small god. He's got a wide god pool.
Oh, yeah.
the Anhur, hey man, he's winning with it, so why do anything but?
I mean, hey, listen, when we're talking about these mid laners, both of them have very diverse god pools because in the 32 games Renegades played in Phase 1, Dardez has played 14 different gods. Same thing goes for Hurriwind. He's played also exactly 14 different gods. Only difference is it was a total of 39 games because of all those 5-game sets.
Hurriwind's always largely played a lot of different characters, so that bit doesn't surprise me. Dardez has played 3 positions in 1.5 seasons, so that doesn't surprise me either.
A little surprising is that Hurriwind's playing the Hell for the first time in the phase. He hasn't really brought it out in the online portion, so we'll see what he's trying to do, because the way Renegades was able to dismantle the Pittsburgh Knights when Zeros played the Aphrodite made it look really good. The only difference was Nika was playing the King Arthur. This time around, it's the Jormungandr. Not as easy to isolate that target.
Cherryo getting spotted there on the left side, but he will join the 3 versus 3. We see this a lot from the teams that want to go particularly late. So you've got the Merlin in the carry role, which it's funny. Any other team, I think you assume the Merlin and the Anhur are going to be swapped. But
yes,
as I said, Dardez has kind of played the line so often. There's the knockup. This could be a first blood, but Dardez jumps away rather quickly, and iRaffer there to provide some of the extra help. All this while, QvoFred in the mid lane. Cherryo is not, trying to find farm elsewhere.
And it's funny that you mentioned how Dardez and Funballer are always switching their roles and pick. Well, not roles necessarily, but the picks. How you would expect the Merlin to be in the mid. So far, Dardez has played the Anhur 4 times, whereas Funballer only played it once.
I love that wraparound from iRaffer. What he does is he dashes and then on the stun can kind of manipulate and move around to body block. That opens up the wall for Trixtank to walk to the left, so no kill just yet.
You can really tell how Trixtank has played so much against Dardez, being able to predict that impale, jumping right before it, because if he does get hit by that, he was going to be in the red critical mass. I don't think he would have died necessarily, even with the follow-up from Raffer, but he avoided a very bad situation there and can still farm alongside Hurriwind, who's almost out of mana. He's going to have to back soon.
Nika versus Variety over there on the solo side. Love the prominence of Jormungandr. I think he's a really big deal when it comes to sieging and even defense, but more importantly when you're on the offensive move. I mean, you hit that Jormungandr, the other team just has to walk away. You really can't do anything after that Jormungandr ultimate. The King Arthur has fallen down a little bit in popularity. He's no longer a must-pick, must-ban, but he's been picked here a number of times. Variety, kind of the first guy to really shine on this character and still sticking with him here.
The funny thing is that Variety, even though he did dominate Space Station Gaming with that King Arthur, after that set, he was like, I want to play everything but King Arthur. He hasn't played it that much since, but still a dominating performance whenever he's on the battlefield. In this particular solo lane matchup, though, Jormungandr is the favored one simply because it's magical. There's so many cost-effective items you can go on the Jorm, such as the Dynasty Plate helmet. You can also go Stone of Binding if you want to help out your carries, and that helps you survive also against QvoFred playing this Erlang Shen, whereas Variety has to rush the Gladiator Shield, but that gives you 0 magical protections.
So that leaves you kind of vulnerable in the early to just the damage, and as you said, when we see some of these Guardians in the solo side, they're not high in damage just early. That's a very different statement for Nika, of course, going to be rushing those damage items as well. You see the pen boots already, so Variety half HP under the tower. Get used to that. The Totem of Coups also in Renegade's favor because of Nika's lane dominance. This will be the 3rd one so far, with Dignitas only grabbing 1.
A little dicey for Variety this early in the phase. His teleport is on cooldown for a good 110 seconds, and with 6 health potions from Nika, he's going to be able to continue to trade out consistently with Variety. Being melee range as a King Arthur, that's what Nika wants, is he wants to get a little bit closer to the Arthurian melee class god to be able to poke him out, force him back, maybe deny even half of a wave. Like if you deny even 3 melee minions, Nika could potentially, already has an experience lead.
A little bit of a fight here, and see Nika's ability to clear the wave as quick as that. Now gonna not. I thought he was gonna turn because I saw Cherryo up top, but QvoFred has sniffed out Cherryo's invade as well. And so no real jump there on the solo lane.
And as we were talking about that solo lane matchup, the most obvious one that I didn't even mention was the fact that you can't get Excalibur's Raft as a Jormungandr.
Not going to be able to take you off the ground. We've seen a lot of nausea into Jormungandr despite that fact. That just means you've got to ult somebody else. The stash still works, the ring still works, etc., etc. But Cherryo going for the Bakasura that we haven't seen in a while, as the desk had mentioned, and I can't help but think that might be part of the reason.
Like we were talking about how Hurriwind has played health for the first time, this is Cherryo's first time playing the Bakasura, but it's trying to hold that thought though, because on the backside, QvoFred.
There's the ultimate from Dardez, one short of the kill on a Hurriwind, but Cherryo comes from behind and grabs the kill. Now trying to jump in, but gets picked up by Variety, and it's missed Impale. Now Variety 1 versus 2 is doing well. Hurriwind dies off screen to Nika. The solo lane rotation all the way to the mid. Catches the runaway mid laner. 2-0 for Renegades. And this is likely to be the disengage.
Beautiful peel from iRaffer because Variety was this close to finding the return kill. Both solo laners making good impacts, but getting the better end of the trade was Renegades simply because QvoFred was just a little bit too far away. Renegades was able to strike first.
Timing of that was really important as well. QvoFred not able to grab his speed buff on that one because he heads all the way to the other side after the respawn. So Cherryo able to pick that invade up very nicely, and now all of a sudden, Renegades find themselves with a 1,500 gold lead, give or take.
Not only that, between these solo laners, Nika was able to rush the boots, Variety's rushing Gladiator Shield, World Serpent, Semi-Global. There was no realistic scenario that Variety was going to be there first.
Not at all. This time around, though, Variety has boots too, perhaps more importantly, the Glad Shield. And that fight right there. Talk a lot about the metagame and how characters come in and out. And player knowledge and matchup knowledge is a big part of that. What are you giggling at?
Cherryo just stole both of those with basic attacks.
And so players have improved against King Arthur. You mentioned that he's fallen in the ranks a little bit. Earlier, that fight is how Variety winds up on the highlight reel and embarrasses the 1 versus 4.
Yes.
This time around, you watch how Renegades spread out so he couldn't hit multiple players with that Glad Shield. That is what we're talking about. That was a beautiful example of by Renegades of how to fight against King Arthur. You want to have multiple people fighting him, obviously, but if everybody gets hit by these multi-cleave abilities, you're giving him multi-procs, and that's how he gets this insane sustain. So keep it at a distance, man, and that's a really nice look.
I don't expect Variety to pick the Arthur after this game. He's getting bullied and manhandled. Uncharacteristic to see from him. This is not a favored matchup, and because of the lack of the health chalice, he actually just picks it up now as he teleported back to the lane.
I think if Dignitas take care of the Yorm, either ban it out or pick it themselves, then we can see the King Arthur come back, but it's a big if. Renegades in Dignitas' jungle, just a back heartbeats, really not a large. We usually see this group up by red buff, so a little just an annoyance factor. Variety seems to be swinging everything at Nika, and just now Nika starts to take damage.
He is taking a little bit, has the Dynasty Plate helmet to absorb these shots, but Variety has plenty of cooldowns to throw away and still plenty of health potions.
Hurriwind able to heal up just a little bit. Now it's Cherryo versus 2. Ataraxia in trouble, crippled, and here comes Funball. QvoFred also relatively low. iRaffer teleports over thanks to the ultimate and will keep the opponent out of there. The red buff goes down. Renegades successfully get the invade, and Dignitas have to just watch as the lead for Renegades grows.
They forced out 3 ultimates, only for 2 while stripping away not only the red buff, but those back camps. This is a late game Bakasura that has an advantage in the early game because of the early mobility. It's not only the Talaria boots, for both junglers by the way, but it's also the Hasten Katana. It's also the Bakasura passive as you're killing the minions, you're getting extra attack speed. A nice attempt with a Regurgitate. You don't necessarily have to get kills to get an advantage. Renegade's proving that point.
That's really what I find about Bakasura. Late game hyper carry for sure, but his early game, once Hasten Katana is finished, he has kill potential with just the true damage. And as you said, in the early game, you're doing a lot of these 2-3 man fights around buff camps where you're getting at least a passive stack or two. And so Cherryo can really do it right here and maybe even into another item. It's the mid game where it's the 5-man team fights and you don't have that true just I'm going to take down 3 people with my cleave basics. When you're in that kind of no man's land, that unhappy valley, if you will, that's where Bakasura kind of struggles. But this early game Hasten Katana is his wheelhouse. Can certainly make an impact.
I mean, hey, 70 true damage at max rank and plus 30 physical power of a buff.
Cherryo going to look to turn this around. 1 versus 3, probably too tall of an ask. And so Cherryo will fall down. QvoFred with the last hit on the rotation from the dual lane.
As good as Cherryo on the Bakasura might be offensively, at this point in the game, he doesn't have any sort of escape mechanics.
Exactly.
He actually invested the jump earlier to disengage. Round number 2 was still while his jump was on cooldown. He's level 9 that invested into an early blink. No purification beat. No Mad Guy's Cloak, obviously, this early in the game. So if Dignitas can continue to group up like this, they need to focus out Cherryo and prevent him from getting into the late game. And just with that one little death, QvoFred now is the one with the experience lead. He was struggling with 1 level deficit earlier.
We haven't really seen much of Qvo since that first kill. This is because of that. He'll be a little bit more relevant now. Level 9 on Trixtank seems rather low when you compare the carries, but he's in line with where iRaffer is. That's just the game right now. Carries get all this solo experience for the most part, and your supports are left to rotate.
The problem with a different level 9 that I'm seeing is Hurriwind on the level 9 hell. That is the biggest part. And the problem was there's a lot of 2-way, 3-way splitting that he's been having to share with QvoFred and Trixtank.
And I think the reason for that is Dignitas want to protect the hell. You know, you don't want hell to get behind by repeatedly dying, but you know, this is the other risk. You get held behind by having too many friends.
It was also Nika's earlier rotation that was able to isolate Hurriwind, and then with that 1 death sacrificing a lot of farm, Nika now looking for a little bit of an invade, and he has friends right beside him.
Variety just surrounded. He ain't got no friends. Here comes Trixtank, and it's a little bit too late there. iRaffer with the last hit, but it was all Cherryo's damage. Dardez keeps Hurriwind at a distance, forcefully. And the rest of Renegades looking for a little bit of experience. Cherryo in the jungle. And this, sure, we'll take some harpies. Cherryo really just wants to bait a fight, and Hurriwind just gets deleted. QvoFred's number 2 for the Bakasura, off of the impale from Dardez, and there, Dardez snatches the triple kill away, but he earned it from the one he gave Cherryo before.
Are we sure that Dardez is still a mid player? Because he's been playing these hunters like he never really left the role. What a performance out of him. I love the grouping from Renegades at the blue buff, and without any hesitation, 3 instant kills straight to the left side of the map.
That was what was really fun about that was we always kind of oversimplify iRaffer's playstyle to be sure, but the kind of I'm gonna bait myself so that my team can take advantage of it after everybody goes, what is iRaffer doing? And then they all kill him. That looked like Cherryo jumping into a bad spot, but iRaffer was right there with the Horus dash. Yeah. We had the benefit of seeing that. Dignitas, however, did not realize that was coming from around the left side of the wall. In comes 2 players. Dardez lands a very important slam after the burst damage onto Hurriwind, and that just was a beautiful look there. Teamwork at its finest, and a great call to immediately snap to the Gold Fury. 5K lead.
This is a very impressive from Renegades because the fact that Cherryo has not played Bakasura in Season 6 yet, and Dignitas doing their homework noticed that, which is why they banned away the Kali instead earlier. That kill and that sequence of events doesn't happen if Cherryo is playing almost any other god because of how effective Cripple is against the King Arthur. Variety drops first. The performance from Dardez to follow suit after. Renegades just doing a trickle-down effect.
Nika here on the right side takes care of the Tier 1 tower. Now just dealing with Harry. Very well, I might add. 16 to 14 on the level counts respectively to Nika and Variety. Nika has very quickly become a very strong solo laner.
Ooh, good spin to prevent the knockup from iRaffer, and Cherryo a little bit too far away to follow up until he's blinking in.
That was hot. Variety blinks defensively. Here's the rest of Dignitas. Nika takes care of one. Cherryo gets Variety. Totally, you're going insane.
Oh my goodness, just as this AoE damage between Cherryo and Dardez, the Desert Fury through the wall. Nika with the knockup on top of it. Cherryo uses his ultimate for the CC immunity instead of the beats.
And that right there, the 180 stun from iRaffer. I think teams got to be put on aware. They get put on notice right now. Totally. This is the level of teamwork that I'm seeing out of Renegades is very important to note.
It's also the execution, the reaction time from Cherryo to use his Regurgitate to counter the 9 turns blessing from QvoFred. Perfectly timed. It doesn't stop his DPS as a Bakasura, which is the most important part. And then the accuracy from Dardez, kind of just aiming every Desert Fury shot through that wall. Perfect double kill. And a 16-minute fire giant. Renegades just can't be stopped.
That's all. That is the craziest part, is that this is 16 minutes in. That's the insanity, is that the damage and the application. Now, when you look at the character selection, this is for sure. Dardez, Cherryo, Dardez is the mid-game monster on Anhur, right?
Yes.
That's really where Anhur is in his most comfortable spot. So I like the idea of going maybe a Jotun's Crusher. Or is that... No, it's going to be...
No, it's going to be Crusher. Yeah. You want the attack speed.
Oh, it will be.
Yeah, you want the attack speed, the penetration, and just the extra ability damage.
Okay. You don't need anti-heal if you just kill the healer.
Yeah, because honestly, a level 13 Hell, she's so far behind.
That's what I'm saying.
She doesn't have much magical power in her build. Yeah, she can spam because of her 30% cooldown reduction, but I don't know how fruitful that's going to be because Renegade's damage seems to outweigh the healing from Dignitas.
Nika does get his ult force out there. Hurriwind's going to get jumped on by Cherryo.
Respecting the teleport.
You got it.
He definitely could have killed Hurriwind, but a level 16 Bakasura versus a level 13 Hell, that would have favored Dignitas if they got the 1-for-1.
If Cherryo still has the ultimate up, I think he stays for the fight against the Arthur that's TPing in. But because he doesn't have access to the cripple, I think that's why you see the back off. That's why you saw him kind of hesitate.
Yeah.
He stood, took an extra tower shot, no, I'll back off.
Yeah, you could see the mental thought process. You could see it's like, oh man, I want to stick it to this mid player, but no. Discipline wins championships. Cherryo now in a position to allow his team to win this game 1 of a best-of-5 set.
Split push from Ataraxia on the right side, but the left side is heavy with 5 different Renegades. There's the 5th. Dardez jumping over the wall to make me correct. Thanks, bud. Now, the left Phoenix is under attack. Ataraxia will join the rest of the squad. Arlong Shen on the flank. And Cherryo will sniff it out and jump back into the jungle. Tier 2 tower remains.
In either the sieges or the defensive, Renegades has a great composition for either or because of the item selections. Nika with a Gem of Isolation, Funballer with the Gem, Dardez throwing up his pillar for a great amount of slow. Difficult to really maneuver around all those slows from Dignitas, especially without any sprints, no winged blades to counteract that. They have to concede their last remaining tier 2 tower. This is looking nicely for the black and yellow.
This is really where you get one of your strongest leads, I think, Anatoly, because when you're able to get a lead this early, when you start getting the leads later, they mean less and less because of the value of gold because of amount of item spots, but your key items have already been purchased. You can mitigate the stuff, like you said, you can mitigate the stuff with Winged Blade because you already have boots and your 2 necessary items. So when you start getting a big lead after everybody has 4 items, 6 to 4 items is a lot different than 4 to 2.5 items. And this lead right now for Renegades is absolutely in that spot.
That's a great point that you make because this kind of lead doesn't normally happen at 19 minutes. It's usually like the 29-minute mark. So you normally do have at least a couple more defense or power.
Couple more auras from your support. Couple more utility items to get out of jail.
Maybe an upgraded relic to be able to get that off the ground, but instead it's Renegades nearing 6 items completed, having fully upgraded relics for iRaffer. You can tell that Renegades wants to end this game probably off of the next Fire Giant push.
I agree.
And even if they don't, I'm not really worried about Dignitas' late game either.
No, I mean, you've got to look at the hell. QvoFred gets picked up, and Cherryo burns the ult. Avoids the damage from Ataraxia, excuse me.
Did you just almost call him Ratatasker?
Yes. Ataraxia, I don't know, man. Interesting change up here, though, for Renegades as they kind of slow it down. They've been foot on the gas pedal this entire time, and now throwing a change up.
There's not really much for them to do. 6 towers already stripped away. The last things to do is the Phoenixes, so just wait for the Fire Giant. Not going to be the enhanced one. Still got to wait 9.5 minutes for that one, but I think Renegades will feel confident to still start sieging once they do get that buff.
Another example of the differences in the game as far as the lead is concerned with respect to how early it is right now and how late we usually see it. Sometimes you would see a team with a lead as large as this, over 10,000 gold, just go, you know what? Let's just go for the Phoenix. We don't need a Fire Giant. Again, this early on, you kind of need a little bit of help. iRaffer going for the Emperor's Armor, which I absolutely love from this position of how far ahead and early the game is. This is an item that virtually no other players buy except for iRaffer, and he's been sticking to it since it came out.
Yeah.
Not every game, but when it is relevant, it slows down what the Phoenixes are going to do here. So you can argue that there's no more towers to deal with, but I think the Phoenix sieges are important, and that's what we're going to look at.
Wouldn't be surprised if he opts for a Talisman of Energy later down the road as Renegades using that Emperor's Armor effectively.
Trixtank now coming up front, but taking a ton of damage, and Renegade's relatively healthy. iRaffer gets knocked up. Almost looked intentional there.
Yeah, he definitely did do that intentionally because Trixtank has to back to heal, so there's a small window to force a 5-on-4 on the right side, but Renegade's waiting for the minion wave.
There's Nika, and there's the Frenzy. This is the all-in right now here from Renegades. Nika's going to shove the players off, and that's what I meant before. When you have that Jormungandr ult, you ult, and the enemy has to walk away.
iRaffer kind of on autopilot there, almost walking to the middle Phoenix by his lonesome while the Renegades crew was trying to call him back. It's like, all right, let's attempt the middle Phoenix siege now.
Minions are here, perfectly timed. iRaffer blinks, can't find the knockup combo. Cherryo controlled by a counter blink from Variety. Oh, it's instantly turned on. Variety's alive for now, but it was a ton of damage. Nika picks up Qvo on the outside. Trixtank dies on the inside. Variety back. There's the ultimate from the rest of the team. Cherryo gets the flank on the right-hand side. Right Phoenix is dead. The mid Phoenix will be focused on, but I think that's game.
It definitely should be game in a 5-on-2. Dignitas needs to rely on Hurriwind and Ataraxia to hold for dear life in game number 1.
Renegades are going to wait for the minions. It's only 23 minutes in. Here comes the attack onto the Titan, and 20,000 gold nearly. Renegades demolish Team Dignitas.
Only giving up, I believe, 1 death that entire game. Clean is the performance you can describe that on Renegades. Funballer laughing, Dardez looking perplexed like, did we just win like that? It felt like just another day walking in the park.
I mean, that was really just, a fantastic invade on the blue buff side of the map towards those back Harpies. You get a couple of kills there. Great use of the cripple, as you pointed out. That put Variety down 2 whole levels. Nika owned that side of the map.
Yeah.
From minute 14, this belonged to Renegades.
Everyone doing their part from the Renegades side, like you mentioned before. Variety definitely struggling. I think it was a matchup problem. Arthur not the best against Jormungandr, and this was Dignitas drafting to try to get that matchup because they definitely wanted to take something away from Nika because his most 2-play gods was either the Jorm or the Arthur. They prioritized the Arthur. They should have went for the Jorm instead.
Something's got to change for Dig. That was a thrashing. Back to you guys on the desk.
Well, it was a very interesting game, to say the least. It was a dominant performance there from the Renegades. One thing I'm going to say, though, real quick, Ryan, I am very excited about the fact that Horus got a really good game in, and I've been screaming. It's not often that I get on a soapbox about gods either, but I've been having a hard time not understanding why Horus isn't seeing competitive play a lot, and that was one of the reasons why, I feel.
iRaffer did it beautifully yesterday against Pittsburgh Knights, and again here today. His lockdown potential just so strong. The healing certainly didn't hurt them either. He was really getting some extra sustain in.
And I think it was more to do with the fact that he can always jump to his frontline assassin. And when you've got someone like Bakasura, sure, they've got a cripple, right? But outside of that, they don't bring any form of CC. However, having a Horus there is going to knock up slow, stun, and then even protection shred, which adds to the damage done, is insane.
That was so dominant that iRaffer did it was 30 less damage than Hurriwind and did more healing than the enemy mid lane hell.
And on top of that, Horus does not deal damage. Just want to put that out there. The support
Right.
role, you're not there for the damage aspect, in all honesty. Great plays from Renegades overall, though. And where do we start with this game? Where did it start to go wrong for Dignitas?
I think it just was the draft, to be
drafting?
honest with you. I really did not like the Hell and Bacchus picks to round out the draft. I think that Renegade's draft was good, but it was predictable. Outside of the Bakasura, everything else is things that Renegades have played really consistently, but Dardez looks great on Anhur. Shocker that he's been doing that all year. Cherryo looks solid on the Bakasura. iRaffer looks great. But, I mean, what is Trixtank really supposed to do against this composition?
Yeah.
I mean, that engage was just outright bad. But it was kind of just a lot of that because there wasn't a good engaged target for him.
Definitely, and it would cause a lot of problems for him as this game just continued on. Cherryo getting a double kill towards the tail end there. And yeah, the picks and bans is what I was going to definitely bring up too, because Dignitas were the highest seed. Being the highest seed in this means they got the advantage of choosing to be first or second pick. Do you maybe see Dignitas switch this up now? So they lost that game, they got the option again.
No, I kind of like second pick. I think that Renegades is a second pick type of team where they have a lot of players that have really strong gods that 3 gods that they play really, really well on. And that's really all you need at this level is 4 to 5 gods that you're playing at a super high level, and then you can't get banned or picked out pretty consistently. But I think Dignitas sticking in second pick is fine. I just want to see them switch up their prioritization.
It's more understanding why that ban phase, so the counter pick phase was the way it was from Dignitas, because they picked the Hell in the 4th position, knowing the Renegades get to shout back to just save the Bacchus pick. For some reason in my head, I feel like they wanted to save support for some reason in case there was some other comp they were worried about.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I still think that was just a weird bottom 2 selections. I think that the Anhur mid really does limit your god pool, especially Hurriwinds, because he likes those immobile, stand still, deal big ultimate damage mages like Zeus, like Apwash, and you really can't pick those against Anhur at all.
It's also because you already had 3 physicals selected, taking a 4th one in the mid lane, because normally if you see a mid hunter, we normally see a hunter match that most of the time, or at least somebody that can just sit at range and farm out, but Hell didn't really get the opportunity to do that.
Right, you can't do that in that spot. So maybe I wouldn't be surprised if we see Dignitas trying to take Anhur away if Renegades don't top 3 it. It's been such a key pick for Dardez in the way that Renegades have really played this mid game.
So maybe they top 2 it, right? The first pick phase for Dignitas, I don't think Renegades are going to first pick Anhur.
Yeah, but that means that someone on Dignitas has to play it. I mean, that's the problem. If you haven't been practicing the Anhur, it's not worth you trying to just take it away for the sake of taking it away.
True.
I think I'd rather see Hurry try and move more towards Giannis or something like that. That's mobile, can affect the fights from a long range. Dardez is using these walls in the jungle beautifully. Anhur fights so well in the jungle between shifting sands and his ability to get over the walls to the leap and the Desert's Fury to pierce the walls. So I wouldn't mind seeing Dignitas try and match that level of jungle fight.
So far, it's rinse, repeat, or should I say, not now, as the Jormungandr is locked in this time for Dignitas. Early on, they want to try and get that one over to Variety and take away the Horus for Trixtank too. So Dignitas already trying to take away some of the picks that Renegades had at their disposal last game.
All right, so Renegades here are probably going to go King Arthur
Erlang?
on her. I think you go King Arthur on her in these two. I really want to see Dardez run that back. Horus could have a bit of a more problematic matchup for him, but I'm not too worried about that. I really think the Anhur could do well against the Jormungandr, who can't really get away without his ultimate. I think that's where I'd want to see Renegades go.
I only mentioned the Erlang Shen because I do feel like Dig may look to select it themselves if it's still available for the counterban phase, but that Geb could cause a couple of problems here.
So that means Nika is likely not going to get King Arthur, but that tells me that iRaffer doesn't have a lot of gods that he really heavily prioritizes in support and wants to make sure that he gets one of them right away. Dignitas now can go straight back to Jing. I think that's a fine pick. From this position, you have so much, I mean, that is a ton of CC. Imagine this. You get Horus stun, prot shredded, he knocks you up, Jing knocks you up. You're dead, basically no matter what.
So Wheelix jungle, right?
Yeah, Wheelix jungle actually wouldn't be too bad in this slot. Not great
Because
against the
Anhur
Geb,
as
but
well
yeah,
is pretty
Anhur wouldn't be too bad. You already have the knockup of the Jormungandr as well.
Semi-joking off the knockups, but, you know, it's always
bad.
a possibility. Dignitas then having the option for themselves, Jingwei, as we said, available and selectable. Same for Erlang Shen here. I don't think if either of those doesn't get picked, it's going to get banned.
Yeah, Erlang's fine, but Qvo had a really lackluster performance on it last time. You go somewhere different. I don't mind the Hun Batz. A little bit risky, but also kills Geb very, very well. That's the big one. Are we going to be focusing people that iRaffer can shield and therefore not get a whole lot of value out of Fear No Evil? or are we going to just focus the Geb in the early game? I imagine Dignitas will be going with the latter.
With Zhong off the table and King Arthur and Jormungandr already picked up for the solo line of Dignitas, Renegades are going to be looking at that menu screen there real quick. Nika to see what he's going to select in that solo line. What would you like to see there now?
Yeah, these are the picks that he's played pretty much. Is just Jormungandr and King Arthur are the two that come to mind. I think he's played a little bit of Camazotz, but outside of that, I really I'm racking my brain right now to try and figure it out. Osiris is a solid ban. You assume every solo laner has one of those in the pocket. Maybe he goes. I mean, he used to play a lot of just Guardians in that lane. Could go back to that sort of style. Could go to something CC heavy. Haven't seen Sobek in a long time, but I think he's probably pretty decent still.
Well, one thing for sure, Dignitas do need to select a magical god, and that's no
Smart
surprise to see Renegades ban away that Morrigan just in case here as well. Hurriwind does have a deadly one.
Yep.
But more importantly, we were mentioning the Giannis quite a lot. Does Giannis fit in this composition?
Yeah, I think it can still work pretty well. It gives you even more mobility where that's already a strength of your team comp, I'd say. It just means that you can farm safely in the mid lane. Giannis can kind of fit any team comp. I really don't think that he needs a whole lot of stuff around him to be successful in a vacuum, but it isn't an easy slot in. There are very few Giannis players, I think, that can really pilot him to his full potential.
Chernobog. The rise of Chernobog this tournament has been impactful so far. We'll see where that's going to end up. I'm expecting in the duo lane here for Ataraxia, but it is a flex pick towards mid. We've seen it on the odd occasion here, and it is going to be against an Anhur. So there's a possibility.
Could be. It could be in the mid lane, but maybe not. Hurriwind does really like his mid hunters. Don't forget about that.
Yeah.
That's something that he's done quite a bit during his time in the league, just not as of late. He's got a very flexible god pool. It wouldn't surprise me too much, though it does lean Dignitas a little bit magic light if that happens, a little bit too physical heavy, because Freya and Chronos already taken off the board, unless Ataraxia is going to pull a Snoopy and put Vulcan in the duo lane,
Soul?
something like that. Soul, maybe. Funballer likes it. I don't know how much anybody else does.
Achilles hovered over by Renegades here. I think that could be the one that goes towards Nika in that solo lane here. We were talking, I do remember a little bit of Achilles here and then from Nika. Achilles fallen a little bit out of favor as well, just because of the small nerfs to his range. He did get a bit more of a damage adjustment though to compensate, but he's still viable.
Yeah, he can work. We saw it a little bit earlier on today. I believe that was Baskin playing it in their set up against Armada. Not in love with Achilles right now, but it can do pretty well up against Jormungandr. This is something that I can remember Nika playing.
I'm not so happy about it against a Horus though as well, just because the dive heals. Whenever there's a healer on the enemy team, the execute can be baited into an awkward spot now and again.
Sure.
But there's an old school Naja coming out from Cherryo. We saw it banned in game one. Generally does get banned a lot against him because he can have some stellar performances on it.
I like it. The Renegades comp, I think, came together pretty nicely. A little bit worried about their early game if Naja gets a little bit behind, though Anhur's pretty solid. Maybe it's not too bad. We're just anytime I see Geb, I get a little bit concerned about your early game because he's so easy to pressure out and focus.
Well, this question now for Dignitas is that Chernobog mid or is it in the duo lane? This pick will decide that. I am leaning towards Chernobog in the duo lane though. But then again, is it going to be Merlin against Chern in the duo? Merlin could still technically go to mid lane for Renegades here.
Yeah, but they have Anhur. I don't see any way.
I just want to put it out there, even though, I mean, we all know Funballer's got an Anhur as well as Dardez.
Yes, he does. Funballer's Anhur quite strong, just it's Dardez. So
it's Dardez.
I imagine it's going mid. I do think that Chernobog has a pretty bad matchup, I'd imagine, against Merlin. Merlin really excels against characters that rely on telegraphed CC that he can flicker out of very easily, and then that won't have a lot left over after the fact. And because Chernobog needs both his 1 and his 2 to execute his combo, if you dodge that, then you're leaving him with basically nothing, and so that can be a problem.
Poseidon is the final pick here locked in. I was wondering to see if that would be the case. It can shut down a little bit of mobility here from the Renegades. Not a whole lot, because Naja has a bit of escape there with the Windfire Wheels and the Sash to jump out of the Whirlpool. But the likes of Achilles and Geb are not going to enjoy it as much. Neither is Anhur or Merlin.
No, I mean, you can make this work. I do think that it's not as immobile as gods like Zeus and Opwash, but even with that increased movement speed, shifting sands makes you feel really slow a lot of the time. This is the kill Geb composition, though. I mean, it's Fear No Evil, it's Horus setup, it's Poseidon Kraken. If Geb gets through the early game pretty much unscathed and the Dignitas isn't punishing somebody else, I think they could have a tough time.
Well, this is iRaffer. That's what iRaffer wants them to do, right? Because iRaffer is definitely the player that's more than happy to die if it means his team's going to get results.
That's true, and Cherryo has a really good job of following up usually off iRaffer's desk. This team works really, really well as a unit together. Dignitas' draft is better this time, but I still don't love it. I don't know. There's just something missing, I think, with these drafts so far. In the game 1 and here in game 2. I can't quite put my finger on it, but maybe this one will work out better.
I hope it does. I have a feeling I'm a lot stronger on Dignitas in this composition than there was in game number 1. Game 2 is about to begin. There's the Renegades 1-0 up against Dignitas. Can Dignitas answer back? Tom, take it away.
I don't know about all that one. The way Renegades just played made me think, I'm getting out of here early. I don't know about you, Toli, but that type of game that Renegades comes in with, whew.
I haven't seen such a mechanically dominating performance in a long time as the last game. Renegades really putting on a clinic. Didn't even have to change much of their damage in terms of Dardez and Funballer, even though it was funny listening to Funballer after that game in the hallways like, I did nothing that game. That's what he said. He let his whole team carry him, but he was still there, you know, being the zoning Merlin that he needed to be.
I mean, Dardez didn't say that. Let's put it that way.
Oh, yeah.
Dardez absolutely contributed to game number 1, was a huge part of it. The fact that he gets to play the Anhur again, you know, I think a big deal of the composition was the Jormungandr. That's a free Phoenix every time. Renegades activate the Jorm ult and you can't do anything, so sure. I like the fact that you take that, and iRaffer's Horus. The ability for him to find these stuns, dash to his teammates. He's too mobile. iRaffer has always been a guy that plays mid-team fight, and giving him the mobility of Horus and the setup, too much. So I like that. I don't know, man. I think you ban Anhur. Sounds crazy. I think you do it.
Maybe. Renegades, though, getting the better end of this one because they secured their own blue. They might even get first blood.
Right, he's in some trouble, and here's the 2 damage dealers.
Dead.
There's the last hit from Cherryo.
The Warrior's Blessing.
Up, the ring bounce. One more shot.
Stun.
The sash. It's good. First blood for Renegades. Starting it hot the way they ended the last one.
Now, I respect that play from Variety, being able to turn around to proc the Warrior's Blessing for 40 health, but that lowers your movement speed just a smidge, so who knows? I think he was still dead regardless if he did that or not, because Cherryo has the speed buff. He had the ring bounce for the slow, and more importantly, I think he got level 2 from the wave to get the sash. Perfect timing.
And again, like, just fun stuff here. Cherryo's going to use the beads to get out of there. Just think about the mechanics that go into that. We always talk about mechanics as far as like hitting your skills, but the gamification of I have to hit my keybind to level my ability mid-team fight.
And not only that, even before going into the wave, he stole the big blue minion to give extra experience, timing his ring bounces perfectly there. Cherryo, just like game number 1, getting first blood 2 games in a row, this time on the Naja, just as effective as carrying a game as a Bakasura.
When you're in those fights, Toli, as well, both junglers and solo laners are very well aware of how important the minutia is. When you're level 1 and you're sitting there, you're telling your teammate, kill the minion. Kill the minion, I'll hit level 2 and we can get this guy. That minion kill is important. That's micro. And you were talking about like mechanics from game number 1. That's the type of stuff that we're talking about. Really small, intensive things that turn the way the game is played.
And something that I'm seeing that's consistent for Dignitas in games 1 and 2 is focusing out Nika in picks and bans. Yet again, they wanted to take away his Jormungandr, as they should in game number 2, but then they banned away the Arthur, even though that is a losing matchup a little bit. And I think that they probably should have tried to ban out Cherryo instead, because this is his most played god in the first phase. He's played this god 14 times in 32 games.
This has always been Cherryo's go-to carry. Cherryo's the guy that plays Kabrakin, Athena, Ymir, and if you need him to do the damage, he can bring the Naja, which can also bring the setup, but that's a different story. So that's always been, then, you know, that's been his look. Now we saw the Bakasura, absolutely insane. Cherryo, this is comfort zone. This is what he's good at. This is what he's always been good at. I respect the choice. And the damage has been real.
Missing a little bit there on the ring bounces.
That's rough with the blue buff up as well.
Forcing out Nate's ultimate also. Now a numbers advantage for Dignitas.
Yeah, it's a 3-on-4 here. Trixtank finds the stun onto Cherryo. Likely to fall here as the crits from Ataraxia are there. Cherryo will fall down. Nika, I don't know what he's doing here. Testing. the 1 versus 3 waters.
He just got his Warrior's Blessing evolved, so with extra 15 protections, he was looking to get the steal. Doesn't quite find it, but still, using that Achilles passive that gives you the extra damage to scare everyone away.
Maybe that's why he wanted to, maybe that's why they want to focus Nika out, if he's willing to walk into 1 versus 3.
There's not too many guys that you can stop, though.
That's fair.
To do that, honestly, especially when he's has this Warrior's Blessing evolved. He has Warrior Tabai completed, so he's got a lot of physical power to be able to get anybody under that execute threshold.
Nika the 1 with the totem of coup advantage, for sure. So this matchup, Arthur lost the last matchup, and that's kind of how it's supposed to go. Nika has advantage in this lane. Do you expect the Achilles to be on top of the Yorm?
I do, and it's not because of the Achilles versus Yorm matchup. It's kind of what transpired earlier when that first blood happened. Cherryo allows Nika this advantage from here on out, and also because as an Achilles, you're not forced to rush the Gladiator shield as much as a King Arthur is, so he's going to be able to transition into either magical defense if he wants to, or maybe just health off of the Blackthorn's hammer instead.
Certainly has the experience lead so far. Both players have an assist, but only one of them has a death, and that'll be Mr. Harry from Team Dignitas. Trixtank and Ataraxia, on the other hand. Trixtank on the Horus. Not something that we necessarily have seen him play, but I think Horus is a character that as a support player, you know how to do it. This is what you're supposed to be doing. What's your take on Trix's Horus so far?
So far, he's been at the right place at the right time. Trying to make something happen on the right side of the map seems to be what both of these teams are trying to get off the ground. And Horus definitely pops off a little bit earlier than a Geb. So iRaffer is going to be difficult to try to match the pacing out of Trixtank. Just more mobility, I think, from Trixtank to maneuver throughout a team fight.
Cherryo again finds himself in the enemy jungle. The invadability of Naja just so high because of his damage can't clear.
Not only that, the difference now is that he's over level 5, so you can use that ultimate for an escape.
Well, there's a fear no evil. iRaffer will ult in kind and help from the left side. Hurriwind, though, lands the Kraken, and iRaffer will be put in a coffin. Cherryo gets involved, but he's outnumbered and outgunned. Trixtank with the hit. The Jormungandr ultimate will be dodged, and Nika likely safe and sound. But Dardez moving here for the mid lane. Not done yet. A stun on top of 2. Variety and execute range. Trixtank with the body block. And it's good enough, but Nika still looking for the damage. Trixtank turns around. The body block is good. And the carry, the solo, falls down.
Renegades getting too far ahead of themselves.
Yeah.
I don't mind them going for that blue buff, but the way they separated between one player going on the Fire Giant, one player going behind the Fire Giant, great rotation from Ataraxia using that Living Nightmare. Obviously, Funballer has no business being on the right side of the map this early on. That was destined for Dignitas' way. Once Dardez was finally able to rotate, Renegades felt the need to try to make something happen, but a great body block from Trixtank, and then the peels after the fact.
That's twice now that Renegades have kind of gotten in trouble by not thinking about the Ataraxia ultimate. You've got to be aware that you never will have the numbers advantage on these fights on the right side of the map.
I still think it was a good fight to take because of how it started. Cherryo uses his ring bounce off of the totem of Ku, so the damage spread very well there. The problem was Hurriwind's damage. Yeah, you could still kind of think about Ataraxia's rotation because that'll happen at the drop of a dime, but Hurriwind, I think, made a bigger impact with that Kraken and also surviving the Windfire wheels without using his beats.
Definitely a fight that looked better on paper for Renegades than in practice. iRaffer with a fantastic 3-man stun that no one could follow up on, largely defensive in the first place.
And not only that, despite the kills being in the favor of Dignitas, Gold has something to say differently, right? Renegades also with a smidge of the experience lead because of how left alone I think that Funballer was.
For sure, man. Certainly a different tale than game number 1. Although, to be fair, it was really old school style where Renegades were nice and even, Dignitas were right in the middle of the fight, and then 14, 15 minutes in, Renegades cracked it open like a Kinder Egg. Here comes the ultimate from Ataraxia, canceled out. And Dignitas didn't tell anybody.
That's right, Renegades not even expending much off of that. Just a sash being used from Cherryo, which scared out Dignitas.
But here's that thing, that what I mean by they didn't tell anybody. Ataraxia ulted behind his tower. So unless Funball was specifically looking in the sky, Renegades still have that threat in their mind.
Well, you still see the clones coming out. So once you see
you're
the
absolutely
clones,
right. You're right. It's not like a hidden Thor.
Yeah.
If Thor ults in the jungle and nobody
Sure,
sees
yeah.
does it make a sound?
Those clones do slow as well.
Yeah, no, you're totally
so-
right. That's a huge. That's an oversight by me, which is still a point in and of itself. Renegades can now make those plays on the right side of the map, understanding that Ataraxia won't be able to be there.
We'll be up in about 60 seconds. Funballer having a slight experience lead and a good power spike now of the Pythax piece, whereas Ataraxia, interestingly enough, opts for a stacking item. Despite making all these rotations, you would think this is the last thing that he's trying to do. Dignitas has been favored on these global rotations, so he probably, honestly, could have went anything but Devil's Gloves.
I mean, Ataraxia, we've seen him go Bloodforge first item, right?
He has done that.
He's been the experimenter, the scientist when it comes to the builds. That makes sense, but
You know what it is? When
Keeping
he's
it moving.
rotating to the fights, he's expecting to get the kills.
he's lane taxing everybody.
He better get those kills. 'cause
He rotates and he goes, wait guys, gotta clear the wave first. All right, now we can fight.
Yeah, because otherwise, it's going to take him forever to stack this up. He is at 25 stacks now, but it's about 10.5 minutes in. You're looking at about another 4 or 5 minutes until Ataraxia will finish that off, and that's without team fights. If Renegades forces team fights on the right side, it'll take even longer.
Cherryo looking for Trixtank here. Largely looking for the Oracles, which he misses. Dignitas get those and an invade on the right side, and so a nice little tie game here. We passed our 10-minute mark.
And this is something that I don't think is going to discourage Renegades in the slightest of looking for anything offensively. Look how they're grouping up on the red buff from Dignitas. They see where everyone is. They're adapting to the situation. They even see the ward being dropped from Trixtank. No sentry wards to counteract that, so they are spotted out.
Faking the walk onto the red, baiting out the Trixtank ultimate. Now the red buff is spawned, and Qvo's there early, and it's able to be cleared. Nice, easily done by Dignitas, but the counterfight. Trixtank takes a ton of damage, so does iRaffer. Qvo's here with a Fear No Evil. Overhand smash should be good, but Trixtank takes the last hit. Dardez on the run, narrowly avoids the knockup. Narrowly avoids the second one. The third one will find a target, so does QvoFred, the second kill. Onto the Renegades, and Funball surrounded. Hurriwind 1 HP, but protected by Trixtank. Funball, both of the relics chased out. Here comes Nika, perhaps a little bit too late. Winding up and gets the kill.
Just on time, he finds one execute target, needs to find a second one to at least get something back. Variety dropping alongside Ataraxia. I believe it was a 2-for-2 because iRaffer has respawned. Similar story to last game, how it was Nika rotating first because of the Jormungandr, but this time around, it was simply because Variety made that rotation happen first. Nika's still having the boots 3 to keep up with that rotation. An interesting fight because Trixtank was the focus point. He got Geb ultimate, knock up, Dardez used that ultimate as well, but this is the difference between the level 11 on her still stacking the Transcendence versus what we saw Dardez do in the mid to late game once he was 4 items deep with the Crusher.
Yeah, that mid-game for Anhur, that's just where he really hits his stride. Transcendence finished, and as you said with the Crusher, just a little bit extra damage. Late game, it starts to fall off in comparison to what other mages can do, etc. But that little, that 3 to 4 item spot is absolutely where Dardez can flex. Right now, as you mentioned, a little short. Half HP on the Gold Fury, and being brought down even lower. There's the Kraken behind Dardez, who turns around to avoid the knockup. Impale onto Trixtank as well. Cherryo up north, Dardez down south. Funball protects his mid laner, and Cherryo protects himself with a nice ring bounce. And both players individually combine and help out protecting the Gold Fury.
That was a nice attempt from Hurriwind. Unfortunately, it was against an Anhur that can easily cancel out the knockup effect with that Desert Fury. A 75-second cooldown, much shorter than your standard 90-second ultimate. And the fact that Dardez is still level 11 means he doesn't have access to the Aegis. So yeah, sure, you would want to save Hurriwind's ultimate for the Gold Fury, but I think he still made the correct decision trying to kill Dardez.
Absolutely got to agree there. Nika getting punished here for looking for the speed buff. The ultimate forced out. iRaffer is called and shows up. Nika far from death at that point. Nice little hybrid build being built here. A runic shield.
Love it. The magic power reduction aura that you're going to use not only on Hurriwind's Poseidon, but also onto Variety playing that Jormungandr. That's not a little bit of magical power you're reducing. That's 50 total. And between those two gods, that's collectively 100 magical power stripped away.
You know, that's one of the only ways you can mitigate Variety's ultimate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure.
Untargetable, so you can't hit him with a debuff. It's an aura. Cherryo avoiding the Fear No Evil with an ultimate of his own. Dardez lying in wait. Raffer. That's kill number 4. Renegades keep it tied up here with another kill in their direction. Gold Fury now being pinged. And don't forget, one of Merlin's claims to fame is how quickly he can burn these objectives. And burn it he does. Ataraxia is here, but too little too late. There's help from the Horus. Almost a steal. And now Horus being turned on. Separate team fight. There's to jump in, and Trixtank in trouble with the solo lane. Here to help out. Funball on the flank. And now Variety here to help out. Might need help himself. 3 players trembling, and Funball takes it no matter what. Double kill for the dual lane magician. It's 6-6.
That was a very risky play by Dignitas, trying to steal that gold Fury objective from that far away with only 2 members, because that was guaranteed for Renegades to peel it off. Hurriwind reviving, trying to make a play as Nika takes out Quvo.
Kraken off the mark, though. Mid lane, we're back. Ataraxia, 3 players, but they're all half health. Level 14 Chernobog with an Executioner certainly can wreak some havoc. So Renegades playing it safe. Some poke damage from Nika, no stun. Does have it on cooldown. Voids to CC from Ataraxia. Cherryo making a long flank. Speed buff invade will be the choice instead. Easily distracted junglers.
Renegades are so methodical about how they're approaching these objectives. Knowing that Hurriwind was level 11, that's why they got that kill initially. They forced his beats earlier on, and obviously he doesn't have Aegis, only being level 11, so that was a guaranteed kill once landing to the Desert Fury. And with that one pick, 5-on-4 advantage, goes for the Gold Fury.
Specifically Kraken down.
Yeah. Especially without the Kraken. And then Dignitas are put in this weird limbo mode. It's like, all right, how do we kind of try to defend this? And the answer that they put out there was just incorrect. They either give that Gold Fury up, or they all 4 players use the Trixtank ultimate to the skies to contest it. Because since it was only Trixtank and only Variety, easy disengage from Renegades. They reset it. They go onto the support and the soul laner. The rest is history. That was a 1 minute later Gold Fury than game number 1, but the results are the same. They're still up the same amount that they were in the previous game.
You've also got to look at the teamwork to pull off of the objective at the exact moment. Now, when there's a giant spotlight on it because Horus is coming, I guess it's really not, I guess it's hard to ignore. But in tandem, everybody at the same time from Renegades walked out of the way, and that's what allowed Dignitas to not get the steal.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have one person tardy, if you have one person just a little bit late, that's it. The Gold Fury's in the other direction. You're all knocked up, so it's a whole different team fight. Very good response from Renegades to pull off of the objective so quickly.
And since Dignitas had that 4-1 kill lead, Renegades went on a 6-2 killing spree thus far, having a great job in these team fights. A lot of it comes down to just avoiding Hurriwind.
Yeah.
When the rotation that he had on the right side of the map early game was super effective, but then since then, he's been heavily focused out in these team fights, and he's under a lot of pressure.
Cherryo under pressure. Kraken forces the ultimate, but uses it to find the target. Trixtank is going to be at the bottom, and lying in wait was the ultimate from QvoFred. So Cherryo will go down, suffers the fate of his own ultimate. Sets up the opponent, but it also sets up teammates as well.
Sometimes you put an animal in a corner and you're going to get bit. That's what Hurriwind did there. He was getting pressured. He put the damage onto Cherryo. Great follow-up coming through his jungler.
Funball looking for the 1v1 versus Ataraxia while his team takes on the tier 1 tower. That sends Ataraxia to the mid. Now Funball lagging behind. Nika in trouble. Nice body blocks from iRaffer, and Dardez with a knockback. Insane teamwork. That mechanics, crazy. Funball blinks away, but Dignitas still here.
Oh, wow. 4-player knockup was good there. Funballer going to even survive because of the shield. Aegis is good, but I think Variety is going to play cleanup crew.
Here's the jump in. Variety trying to shove players off of the tower. Funball will go back to base the hard way. QvoFred's low, and if Cherryo had found that, might have found a kill as well. Renegades do lose their carry, but they keep their tower.
This is a great defensive style from Dignitas. Despite not having the first game victory, they're able to bounce back mentally, making a lot of plays thus far. At this point in the game, F-Dot, Renegades already had Fire Giant, and they were looking at Phoenixes.
Wow.
So Dignitas definitely cleaning it up.
Cherryo with a nice move there. Had to use the ultimate, but avoided the ult from the enemy. But at this point in the game, I think the one-man invade is a little outdated. 1, 4, and 5 at the moment for the jungler. Not his finest look. The team's still up 1,300 or so, but like I said, they have to stop looking for those solo invades.
Yeah, this is a different style that Cherryo has played compared to the last game on the Bakasura, where he was grouped up with his teammates. He relied heavily onto iRaffer to make those engagements. This time, solo playing on a Naja. I'd rather make solo plays as a Naja than a Bakasura, but this late into the game, it's just too risky.
Also, the build is more defensive and utility-oriented, right? We don't see the Jotun's Wrath, we see the Blackthorn Hammer, which is a slightly less aggressive version of the same item. Winged Blade instead of Crusher or some more power. The Shifter Shield is that classic hybrid in-between that you love to see on the Naja, but Cherryo doesn't have this one-shot kill potential that we see with some of the other builds that come out. Sash, basic, ult, you're dead. So at this moment, like we've both agreed, it's kind of curious to see him by himself.
And normally when a jungler builds this way, that means the damage is coming elsewhere. Dardez is going to build Super Glass Cannon, as we're seeing from him, but normally your carry lane also needs to be building a lot of damage, but this time Funballer still going more utility with the Pythax piece and Gem of Isolation.
We've got the execute from Nika, so you don't have to bring players all the way down, so to speak.
That is very true as well, but I think that Funballer could have opted away from a little bit of utility. I still like the Gem of Isolation pickup on the Merlin, don't get me wrong, but Pythax piece, despite how popular it's been because of the health, the cooldown reduction and whatnot, there needs to be a little bit more damage.
Primal Fury started, and Renegades come over and chase the ult out of Horus already. So that will be on cooldown. Nothing else used, however. Dignitas getting aggressive, but Variety's the one getting popped. Number 3 for Nika. Big plays there, didn't even need the ultimate. 2! Trixtank goes ahead and gets taken care of, and my mistake, I think both players were executed. The rest of Renegades trying to catch up. QvoFred jumping away. There's the last dash. Nika finds a stun, but QvoFred drops the totem in response. P.S. Dardez and Funball just taking care of business and breaking into the bank. The Fury goes down. 21 minutes on the clock. We're tied in kills, but Renegades slowly building up their lead for the second time. Dignitas fought back last time.
Whoever makes the mistake second gets punished harder. Despite Cherryo dying around that blue buff, the way Variety just died there, around the red buff, between a rock and a hard place, he had no business there. I like how Renegades engaged onto this Jormungandr. Before the Desert Fury, Dardez actually being very cheeky, using the Impale, knowing that obviously Variety is not going to get displaced because of that Jormungandr passive. Applies the Daze effect, 10% extra damage with that Desert Fury. A very easy pick to allow Nika that execute. And honestly, if that Impale doesn't happen, Nika doesn't get the execute off.
I agree. That 10% extra damage is a lot. A lot. Dignitas back, just making sure that the Fire Giant's not being done, because, you know, last time Dignitas had a Fire Giant done against them, it was 16 minutes in the game.
16, 17 minutes.
So 22, yeah, we're very aware. And, you know, the Merlin, like I said, that was his claim to fame as soon as he came out, and obviously the game had to be changed a little bit in that regard, but that's still what he brings. He still absolutely is going to shred your objectives. Funball and the Merlin I'm speaking of. And so with that in mind, Dignitas have to be really, really aware of how and what the objectives are or rather, what's going on with them?
Funballer is going to be a pure utility bot this game, even investing into a Bumba's Mask, which lowers his damage just a smidge, right? But he wants that 40% cooldown reduction, and he wants to find ways to self-peel for himself, so he's going to rely heavily on that extra movement speed.
It's an odd... Okay.
Yeah, Messenger's Mask into Bumba's Mask. So he's already at 40% CDR with this build. Maybe he'll leave it at tier 2, but I'm expecting the Bumbas to be completed. He wants that extra mobility.
You want to talk about weird builds? Look at Hurriwind in the mid lane. Cooldown boots into the Spear of the Magus is arguably the best thing you can do on Poseidon. But then...
That's very odd.
The demonic grip. So... a shaman, so with all 4 of those ringed, hastened is a gimmick, right? Ataraxia gets attacked by Funball, but Funball in the mid lane is in trouble. Cherryo blinks forward, Ataraxia is in more trouble. Nika gets the last hit onto the carry, and just like that, Renegades are going to open up a powder keg. Dignitas, they don't want to fight, but they will if needed.
This is Renegades now going to force the Fire Giant, trying to see if they can get an additional pick up against Dignitas.
Nika starting to zone, and the rest of the team going to the bank. Here's Frenzy. Trixtank gonna blink on in. Fire Giant down to 10%. Variety's here. Trixtank in trouble. Dashes to the teammate. There's the ultimate from the Anhur. Here comes QvoFred, but Renegades take the Fire Giant anyway. Dardez puts Variety in the ground, and Nika stuns up Hurriwind. Aegis is good for now, but the Achilles has a 3-level lead. QvoFred, Qvo dead. Cherryo on the chase, Hurriwind in the ground. We call that one a deicide.
Wow.
And Renegades are that's the word. They're explosive.
Nika just cannot be stopped, it feels like. This is an absolute clinic Renegades are performing in this entire set. Now, a better performance from Dignitas in game number 2, don't get me wrong, but this is going to be a tall mountain to climb if they lose this one. To win 3 in a row against Renegades is impressive. And we heard the interview from Trixtank saying how they had the most 5-game sets entirety of the SPL, but hey, Renegades has had 3-game sets where they won 3 of those 5.
Mid lane Phoenix already gone. Since we're walking down the memory lane, I will say Dignitas have won a reverse sweep. Once upon a time versus team rival. What country were we? That was Spain.
Well, actually, Dignitas were up 2, then they lost 2 to rival, and then they won the last one.
I thought it was the full 3-game walk back.
You know what you're thinking of? Wait, no, I was thinking of rival winning against Dignitas in the spring.
Yeah. The summertime I'm talking about.
Or it's the summertime, yeah.
So I'm talking about the spring.
Well, no, summertime Energy won in Season 5. So spring, yeah, rival won that one. Dignitas were up game 1. Right? I think so, yeah. Because Dignitas lost that one. For sure, Dignitas lost that one.
Season 6 mid-season invitational, folks. Toli's been playing since the game came out. Toli, what's your player number? Do you know that? Do you know what your player number is? It's a back-end stat.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Maybe you would have known.
I started right as Cupid was released, somewhere in August 2012.
Just know some of your teammates at Lazarus has like a double-digit, like it was below the 100th player to ever.
Oh, like a Steam ID kind of thing?
Exactly, yeah.
Whoever has those 4-digit Steam IDs are just like godlike players in everything they touch.
I have a 5-digit.
It's not a 4-digit.
No, I got mine. The Steam came out in August. I got mine the same year, but on Christmas. December 25th. Thanks, Mom. Renegades. Another near 20,000 gold lead for the Renegades. We'll check back in as they have done their classwork. Pick up a Fire Giant, kill everything else. That's pretty much what you're expected to do, and that's exactly what Renegades do. Now, everything dead, looking for the fight one more time. We're split. It's 4 players on the left, 1 in the mid. iRaffer blinks in, Trixtank gone in a blink. Cherryo takes him to the sky and delivers him into a coffin. Ultimate from Variety usually means back off, but Renegades will do no such thing. QvoFred dies, Ataraxia dies, the double kill for the Achilles. 8, 1, and 4 for the young man Nika. 28 on the clock. The Titan goes down. That's game 2.
Still a better performance this time from Dignitas, but I still think that they dropped the ball quite heavily around that first Gold Fury attempt when they only used 2 players for that Horus ultimate trying to contest it. They had the kill lead, and then they just dropped the ball.
Real rough. Real rough for Team Dignitas. That's the mid laner Hurriwind trying to figure out what went wrong. And Renegades just look comfortable.
It started off great for Renegades. That first blood coming out of Cherryo, the ring bounce to get the blue buff, chasing down Variety's Jormungandr. It shut down any potential snowball from Dignitas, because if Dignitas got that blue buff, if Variety hits level 2, that could have been an opposite story where they could have got the first blood.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda. Not going to be the case this time around, though. Fantastic performance out of Renegades, and I can't say it enough. iRaffer and the rest of them are just bringing it to him.
Oh, yeah.
Every single time. The damage of Dardez has been good. And you know what's exciting about this is that watching them, not just here in the tournament, but also in the regular season, Cherryo. I feel like a lot of people have been waiting with bated breath to see this guy, difference in ping. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And he hasn't really stood up. This game and the last game, it's been the Cherryo show. Let's see what they think on the desk.
Well, I will say the difference between Game 1 and Game 2, the start was definitely better for Dignitas, but the end result, unfortunately, still went the way of Renegades. Ryan, how did it go down?
Yeah, it was really a good start, like you mentioned. They did exactly what they thought they might.
Yeah.
Focus out the Geb early on, Kraken, Hunbat's ult, everything going on to the Geb. But eventually that plan falls apart, and Geb will still be there to shield the people that you are now trying to kill, and it becomes a lot harder. iRaffer only takes 2 deaths in the early game, and those were heavy investments both times. Like I said, there was something about this comp that just didn't feel quite right to me for Dignitas. And Ataraxia can't really get involved with this Chernobog. I mean, Funballer is able to deal infinitely more damage than him, it feels like. You just can't punish the Merlin in lane with a Chernobog pick. I didn't love that. Trixtank takes away the Horus and does fine on it, but iRaffer still has a big impact on the Geb.
Yeah, I was going to say the Ataraxia pick there for Chernobog. You know, the Chernobog pick there, it looked like it abused Merlin in one way, in fact, of the mobility around the map to try and influence these fights towards the solo, around the Pyromancer sort of area there. And it did make a bit of an impact in some of the engagements, but not enough throughout the game.
Completely agree. And look, Trixtank had a good game overall. He had a sick play in solo lane where he blocks the body blocks the execute onto Variety, then chain CCs Nika to stop him from getting the kill, but it was really just not enough in the end.
Qvo, though, a little bit quiet. We've not really said his
Yes.
name much so far, and you were saying yourself, like, he may not be having the greatest of performances here. Is that just being neutralized by what Renegades are doing? Is that what's happening?
I don't know. I wasn't particularly impressed with him yesterday either, to be honest with you. I don't think that he was a major factor for this team in their wins yesterday. So maybe just not having his best set of games quite yet. But Qvo has games where he goes a little bit quiet in the first half of the set or the second half of the set, and then the other half he just pops off and looks like one of the best players in the world again. So I'm not too worried yet, but they're down to the final game. They don't
Reverse
have much
sweep
time
now.
left.
Reverse sweep, it's on the cards, right?
Yep.
We've seen it before. It's happened in a couple of games. Can Dignitas now do that up against this Renegades team? This player's getting a quick break in between those games just to talk about things and freshen up again and get ready to go. As you can see, Nika's stretching after that big old hard difficult performance there. The defensive side, I was going to say, he played that Achilles play on the right hand side where Trix blocked it and turned it around.
Yeah.
That was this good sign to the Dig team, but it never came to fruition.
No, and Nika was still able to make a big impact on this game with the Achilles. Not the priority pick necessarily in the meta right now, but certainly can make it work. Maybe getting a little bit of a note from the Armada boys.
That's
there.
why it's going wrong. They've got the
you
note
can't be
there
running
still.
it down. Yeah, you can't be running it down if you're Dignitas. They're the late game objective team. I think that's where they need to go. I really think they need to keep Dardez off this Anhur one way or the other. Whether you pick it or ban it, or you let him pick it, but you have to pick around killing Dardez, because Dardez has been able to get free farm through the first half of each of these games and is just able to do too much when it comes to the mid to late game. Anhur is a punishable character for him. You have to be able to get on top of him.
In terms of punishment, then, when we talk about Anhur, for the fans at home, what sort of gods are good at dealing with Anhur?
Robin, I think, is excellent. You can easily overhead kick the Impale. That's his only way to get you away from him. You follow the jump with your own ultimate. A Willish is obviously a pretty decent pickup against him because you can pull him pretty easily. Gods that can gap close multiple times because
I'm hearing junglers. That's what you're saying to me
yes,
there so
yeah,
far,
it's
right?
QvoFred's job. It's
Right.
QvoFred's job here to get him behind. And maybe you can kind of lean into this thing that I've been talking about where you don't want to pick these immobile mages against Anhur because it lets him play so aggressively. Maybe you kind of do it anyways. You pick the Zeus, you pick the Opwash.
To make him play aggressive?
Move him up in the lane a little bit. Let him think he's got a good matchup because he does. But then have Qvo come in and take advantage. Problem is, in the current meta, the support's always there.
Yeah.
So you got to chew through iRaffer as well.
Dignitas then off selected first pick this time round, so there is a bit of a shift here in the pick and ban phase as everything now turns around almost, because Dignitas has had the second pick 2 times in a row. They feel this first pick must be the difference maker. Amuz and Cobb, Jing Wei taken away.
I like it. I like that Dignitas is trying something different, though Renegades are as well with this Jing Wei ban, so trying to keep Dignitas off their toes and give them something that will be a little bit stronger than Dignitas would like. This is, to me, Dignitas saying we don't want to give Funballer Merlin, but we also don't want to change our bans, so we want Merlin for ourselves. We can give it to Hurriwind.
That's
He's a great Merlin player, and we keep it out of Funballer's hands.
How's he going to get Anhur Merlin in the mid lane if that's the case?
It's not too bad.
Okay.
I mean, Flicker is still not far enough away to save your life sometimes, but it's still better than things like Opwash. I think it's probably better than Poseidon, if not the same level.
Could be one of the reasons why Renegades are taking the time with the second ban, because this is the third game and it's the slowest ban section we've had so far, because they were very immediate last time round.
Yeah.
A lot more thought going into this one.
Yeah, that's how it usually goes, right?
Yeah.
Teams decide to make their adjustments and see what they can do. Renegades probably deciding if they want to try and ban one of the premier solo laners that Nika likes to play between Arthur and Jormungandr. You won't see an Arthur ban, but you could see a Jorm ban here, and that would leave the King Arthur up for Nika on the other side.
Freya's still available. Kronos has been taken away, though.
Yeah,
but
Freya
up. That's going to have to be a consideration. So this should be Merlin first pick?
Yes, I think you're not taking first pick here to pick something that Renegades wouldn't have gotten. You know what I mean? Renegades have first picked Merlin both of the first 2 games. You're taking first pick here so you can take Merlin for yourself, I think.
We'll see if that wizard can make good work for himself here. If he does get selected for this Dignitas team, then Renegades have the chance to answer back with that. But it's not instantly locked in by Dignitas here, surprisingly enough.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Maybe they're considering the Jorm. That's the only other thing that I think that you're really considering. But Renegades have shown you that they prefer the Merlin over the Jormungandr. So what's the point of taking first pick? You could have done these exact same bans and gotten Jorm anyway. So they come to the same conclusion.
We're complaining about Dig not picking Merlin. They still pick Merlin, so we can move on from that. Renegades then with the chance to answer back here. Jormungandr Zhong was one that was banned away in the first couple of games here.
Yeah.
Renegades may be looking to select it themselves early on, and I'm pretty sure I've seen Funballer play that a little bit in the duo lane too.
Yeah, it could be. It's also been a pick that Variety loves, and I think it's a pick that we've seen a lot against Jormungandr. Again, a god that can't get away from you basically ever, let alone when you card him and you're stunning him and you're all over him with this Zhong. That's been a pretty popular counter pick, it seems like, in the solo lane. Renegades thinking about it and then could leave the Jorm open anyways.
And that's the problem. I'm a little concerned if they do lock in the Zhong here that Dignitas go, okay, we won't play Jorm, and then potentially give that away to Renegades too.
Could, yeah, definitely could be, and I think Renegades are kind of looking at that as an option. You don't pick an ADC here potentially, and you just end up leaving the door open to you putting this Zhong in the duo lane, or in mid even for Dardez.
iRaffer's performance on Geb was strong enough last game to warrant another pick of it this time round. No Horus for him. Dignitas then with the next 2 picks. More than likely we get to see 2 priority picks more than anything else picked up here. Mainly towards what I'd say is probably jungle and hunter positions here.
Could
then
be.
look for the counter picks.
Could be. I definitely want to get Qvo on something he feels very comfortable with, because he, like I said, has not looked like his normal self so far. You want to get him on a pick that he really likes. But the picks that he really likes, the Cirquet, I don't think is particularly good against the Geb. The Hun Batz didn't do too well last game. The Erlang did even worse in game 1. Maybe you go back to Erlang in this one. I don't think Erlang is a bad idea here for Dignitas. The Merlin this time around can do much more damage off of CC than the Hell can from a safe distance. Hell can obviously put out a ton of DPS, but needs to be much closer. That pin will set up a lot of Merlin damage by itself.
Well, now it's up to Dig to choose what they want to go with here. Don't forget the Anhur is still available for both teams to select, and it's been the one that Renegades has gone to a lot. Even people on social media have been calling as well for the Anhur ban or takeaway from Dardez in mid lane. I think a lot of teams are starting to realize you just can't give it to Dardez.
Yeah, it is going to be the Erlang now, and that's a pick that can do okay against Anhur, though Anhur's Impale really helps him out in that matchup. You can just knock the mink form away or the turtle form away, and then Erlang can't really close that gap particularly well.
Yeah, I think the big thing with that Erlang thing is make sure when he throws the pin out, you don't immediately leap away as an Anhur. You kind of sit and wait for the extra engagement after the fact. The Naja, though, bit of a turn of events there. Obviously, that's not going to be available for Cherryo now, who loves to pilot that. And it's a flexible option there in the jungle for Naja or Erlang.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Naja support Erlang jungle. I think that'll be just a little bit stronger, but maybe not. The reason I'm thinking that way is because Naja support doesn't care about his damage output nearly as much. In Geb, you're going to Naja ult him for 4. I mean, you're not doing any damage because of the Geb passive.
Personal opinion for me, I do prefer Naja for Qvo and Erlang for Trixtank here. That's where I felt those two are the strongest on, but they're definitely interchangeable.
Sure.
Both have it in the god pool. Anhur is selected again, though, for Renegades. We weren't really surprised by that, but now it's onto the counterban phase. Supports could be looked at. To be fair, it's a bit of an interesting matchup now because, well, solo lane is still flexible for both teams here in this draft.
Yeah, it's very true. I think that Renegade's going to look towards ADC because that's where they know that Ataraxia still needs his selection. And you don't really know. I mean, they could put Erlang solo, I suppose. That seems a little bit unlikely.
Yeah.
You're not, I don't think, too scared of the Jormungandr solo because you have the Zhong. And then Renegades, what do you ban against them? It's got to be junglers because you don't really know where that Zhong is going otherwise.
And that's why I'm like, well, there is a situation where Funballer really could pilot that Zhong in the duo lane, so if Dignitas invest in a god that's going to be good against the Zhong in the duo lane, then they can always flex that back to the solo again with the final pick.
Right, that's something that I really like, and I'm a little surprised that we don't see something like a Dodgy ban potentially by Dignitas, because now you have to choose. We ban Hunbats, Dodgy, Kali, all picks that Cherry really, really likes to pilot in that jungle.
Cabrakan for Cherryo wouldn't be too bad here either, just thinking about it. They've not really got a jungler locked in for Renegades.
You know, I was
yet.
actually thinking Cabrakan for Fred before they locked in Erlang and Naja.
Well, the reason I said Cabrakan for Renegades here is because Cherryo loves to pilot. Sure, so does QvoFred. But when you look at that composition they've got here, Zhong Kui's going to have a bit more freedom then to be able to land the ultimate on multiple members and stop them getting away because of the tremors, because of the walls that are going to come into play.
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe you can just lock in this Geb Zhong Kui and
solo.
Let Merlin kind of go to town exactly with his long-range AoE, but seems a bit unlikely from this position. I think that Erlang is almost guaranteed to go into the jungle, and if it isn't the Erlang, then it's going to be the Naja.
You called the dodgy ban there from Dignitas, and there it is, taking that one away from Cherryo. Renegades have to give some of their game plan away now with this next pick, because it'll give the idea of whether they're going to try and save a potential solo switch for the Zhong Kui, or that Zhong's going to be invested elsewhere into that solo and get a different hunter for the duo lane.
You can really just pick Cherry's God here, and it won't matter too much, though, with the Jormungandr, that means,
And
well,
Zhong.
I did watch Cherryo stream the other night, and he was playing Jorm jungle. That's all I'm going to say.
I don't think I want to add to anything to that. I don't want to speak after that. I don't like the idea of Jorm jungle. It's as bad as Jorm mid for me.
Jorm mid's won a lot of games.
It's still bad.
That can also be true.
A broken clock is right twice a day.
That is true.
It doesn't mean it's still right.
It's broken in the sense that it moves a lot.
There's the right, and I know.
You know?
There we go.
In that case, it might be wrong less or more
It's ticking
often.
slow, right? Yeah,
Right.
okay. Terra being hovered over by Dignitas, which could go to the solo lane against this Jormungandr. It is telling me, though, that Zhong Kui is in the duo lane, although you brought up jungle Jormungandr, so now it's in the back of my head, too, as Cernunnos is the final selection for Dignitas.
You know, it's really annoying to punch through Geb shields all the time, so why don't we just polymorph him so we can't shield anybody? Seems pretty decent to me. I don't mind it. It is a heavy CC comp from Dignitas. They've got great chain CC potential. Their team fight is pretty solid. I like this comp much, much more.
But Kali is the final look at from Renegades here for a second.
Yeah,
If that
that's
is
spooky.
locked in, that's a very scary situation to be in. The way Cherryo played that yesterday, we saw it banned a little bit earlier on. There wasn't really windows for Renegades to pick it up, but this time, they gotta lock it in.
Yeah, but polymorph is great. If Kali doesn't have beads, then you polymorph her right
Sash.
before destruction goes off, then she's gonna die. I love the polymorph against the Zhong Kui. Stop those ghosts from coming out right as the ultimate starts. You can go into Frost Dance and slow down the Zhong if he doesn't have his card up. How does he ever get away from you? This is going to be a lot on Ataraxia, but I love the direction that Dignitas went. This is a draft that I like much, much better than either of the first two games.
But is it too late being 2-0 down here to bring out this draft and, you know, look at the situation now? Is this good enough with this draft?
I completely agree with you. I think it's too late, and I think Renegades are going to sweep.
No, you're supposed to say that. You're supposed to give the fans at home hope. The Dig fans hope.
The hope is the draft is really good, and the players are really good on Dignitas, and they've looked good in the past. They just haven't looked good today, and Renegades have looked good in the past and today. I just think Renegades are operating at a really, really high level right now.
I will say I don't think this will be the last time we see these two face off against each other in the knockout stages. Obviously, phase 2, you'll definitely get to see these rosters take on again. But it's going to be the Kali in the jungle position. Yorm to solo lane against the Terra here.
Unless they go with the Yorm mid, PK style, put the Anhur duo and Zhong solo.
Would you really want to take Anhur off Dardez?
Absolutely not in a million years.
Not with the way he's playing. Let's get into game. Game number 3, F. Totally take it away.
Renegades versus Team Dignitas. And boy, this one is out of control. And by this one, I mean the whole damn match here, folks. We've seen fantastic work out of Renegades. Dignitas struggling to hold on. My name's Tom Battinger. I'm joined here by my analyst at large, Anatoly Alexeyenok, and the best observer in the business, Doug LeBlanc. And as we get ready for our third game of a possible 5, Renegades are saying they want no such thing. An interesting shakeup for Dignitas, though. It's the first time we're seeing variety on a character like Naja in quite some time.
I think they're desperate. Honestly, this is Dignitas trying to throw a curveball at Renegades, which is not really a good spot to be mentally when you're down 0-2 to pull this kind of tactic out of your sleeve. And honestly, I think Renegades got everything they wanted.
Also that, I mean, one, you're trying to throw curveballs at a curveball pitcher that is Renegades.
This is awesome.
Funballer and Nate. They know what's going on here. You know what it is. And we'll get back to our regularly scheduled violence in the long lane. But watching Renegades, like you said, Dignitas going for their kind of crazy strategy. And Cherryo got that?
Yeah, he got that with the lash. Nika is going to go pick that up.
Ain't no thing.
Wow. That's so frustrating because last game he did that on the Naja.
That right there, that's how this set has gone. Just, oops, secured it. Oops, got the kill. Oops, got the fire giant.
Dignitas are putting themselves in the correct positions to make these plays. They're just not doing it mechanically. They're not executing correctly. And it's a timing issue. Like, the odds of Dignitas securing it is like 80-20, maybe 70-30 there. But still, Renegades just able to get a better end of it all.
You were saying earlier, we both were saying earlier, you know, we're watching the picks and bans, and I go, I get my water, I sit down. QvoFred gets knocked away by iRaffer. I don't think there's any real threat, nobody to follow up. And, you know, I sit down and see the Kali lock in, and I go, is this a blind pick? This is everything Renegades really want. Dardez and Funball have their Anhur and insert weird mage here. Raffer on the Geb looked great. Cherryo, late game carrying Kali. This is, and then Nika on the Yorm again from game number 1. This is kind of everything they could have asked for.
Which is, by the way, the Jormungandr picked after the secondary ban phase.
Yep.
Yet again, Dignitas so afraid of Nika's Osiris. They must have been watching that PK set where Nika solo Deathwalker twice. And they were like, no, we don't want any part of that. Because giving up Yorm in games 1 and 3 was a little questionable now. In at least game 3, maybe not necessarily game number 1.
Oh. I see you getting Funball low. I do like the Daji ban. I think Daji does late game damage as well as demands beads to be burned. So I like that ban as well.
Well, something that I'm seeing is an identity shift from Renegades. They're relying on Cherryo to be the hard carry in this MSI tournament. Between the Kali, between the Bakasura, even the Naja, the way he built it wasn't necessarily hard carry, but this is the result of scrimming against Splice. Renegades are able to flex so many different strategies against a composition of Aurora and company. They're also experimenting a lot. So Renegades are trying to go for this mage ADC lane, Cherryo being the hard carry, where we know that he's usually playing the setup. The Athenas, the Kabrakans, and now he switched it up entirely.
Trixtank. I think Trixtank just body blocked variety away from catching up to Nika there.
Oh, unfortunate.
With the monolith.
Unlucky.
That's the way this set has gone for Dignitas.
Not sure if that would have been a kill in any way.
I don't think it would have, but just, you know, just like the Kali Lash. Funball going to full invest on the QvoFred with the level 5 ultimate. Fred only level 3.
He's dead.
Knock up, the ghosts, the exorcism. It's good. Renegades first on the board at 335.
Cherryo might even be looking for a little bit extra. Ataraxia does hit 5.
There's a dash after the beads, and iRaffer won't be able to find much more after the fact. But the purple buff invade successful for Renegades. And a nice look one more time for the team, up 2-0.
This time around, it was somebody other than Cherryo getting the first blood, being on to Funballer. Not a bad look for a Zhong. He might have to experience a little bit of pressure on himself, though.
Trixtank coming over here for the gank, and there's the ultimate from Ataraxia. Funball, no ultimate and barely any life at the moment. iRaffer, though, fantastic body blocks. Just setting the screen, man. iRaffer, great job. Saves his carry one more time.
This is why Geb was picked so early in the draft, knowing that Funballer, if he is going to get pressured, he needs those shields. I love the patience, by the way, from Funballer not using those beads, knowing that the Geb shield was about to come out.
So you were talking earlier about the identity shift from Renegades, and I love this option, or I love that conversation, because I really think it revolves around Cherryo and just what kind of day he's having. And that usually is a bad thing. But Cherryo has this defensive mindset and also has always had these late game carries. And what we see out of Renegades is if Cherryo isn't the hot hand that he is today, they can fall back to that old school play style and lean more on the Funball and the Dardez, and iRaffer can be more aggressive. You see the choices, the warrior choice like the Achilles and the Horuses. But when Cherryo's able to perform like he has today, iRaffer can sit back on the Geb and just play defensively. And having that flexibility around the player that Cherryo is, I think is really important for Renegades' success.
Normally, I'm the person to bring out a lot of technicalities as to the little nuances, and I don't think that that's the reason why Renegades are making these decisions. I think it's as simple as Funballer wants to play a mage, and Dardez just wants to play a hunter, and they're revolving around those two backliners to see how they can make it work.
It certainly has been a large adjustment to the long lane becoming largely solo. You're seeing the mages come out.
That too.
You're seeing the mages come out and able to sort of use this. I used to talk about solo lane as sort of a kiln where you put your character in and watch him grow. Trixtank, watch him shrink. Great ultimate though from the carry. Doesn't matter. Funball tanks, he will die for it. But he looked cool doing it. Cherryo, low, first the ultimate. And a 1-for-1 exchange that didn't have to go that way if Renegades tanked the tower correctly. But a kill nonetheless. And Renegades maintain the lead, 1,500. Maybe a hair short.
Definitely feeling themselves a little bit much. QvoFred trying to sniff out where Cherryo is, walking over the ward. It should be A-OK. He's confident enough to go to his back camp, seeing out QvoFred back underneath. And that tower dive, too aggressive. Yeah. It's not worth giving up your life there just for support.
QvoFred looks for the ult, and the Dardez will trade his as well.
No
iRaffer
way.
low, Hurriwind from a distance. Can't find it. iRaffer gets out. Cherryo jumps in, but doesn't have the ultimate, and this is going to be scary for the late game hyper carry, because it ain't late game, and he's at a hyper carry at the moment.
Oh,
Pin
no.
to win, the dispersal, the push, the tower kill. That was planned. Cherryo and Dardez, they absolutely dug down on Dignitas, and they get the okie doke.
I love seeing Anhur highlights like that. My eyes lit up once I saw the jump coming, because I
Same.
predicted the impale after the fact, and that's the most terrifying thing. Whenever you get impaled under a tower, not even a stun, but just to be inside the range, and that was a tier 2 tower as well, and being a level 6 Erlang Shen, you're just gonna melt like butter.
And that was you know, split second. That's not exactly from the playbook that they go, okay, jump into mid lane, no ultimate. But that's Cherryo on the run going, hey, they're following me under the tower, and Dardez going, don't run, stand still, I'm gonna jump. And that's exactly what Cherryo does.
And that was the correct play from Dignitas. Don't get me wrong, even though QvoFred does ultimately fall, because there was no ultimate, because Cherryo invests into Blink, once he jumps in, he is a sitting duck. Great route from Trixtank to keep him in place, but all the abilities from Dignitas were already used in that earlier scuffle, so they had to kind of invest and rotate to find a kill.
Funball in some trouble here. He is
fine.
way up a creek without a paddle. He's on the wrong side of the lane.
No,
he's got the ultimate.
He's totally fine.
There's going to be some healing, some big damage.
Never mind.
I don't know, totally. Close to fine, but not quite there. Dodge and weave still has yet to be hit by amazing. The stun comes up again. The exorcism gets one. Trixtank does get him after the fact, but holy Funballer, what on earth did you eat for breakfast?
And now Cherryo gets his target. What a play. Renegades out of their mind. Finding that. Oh my god. I'm getting goosebumps up there.
This is dirty. This is a team. This is a squad. You know, I tweeted earlier, I said, I think, well, I misspelled it, and that's going to hurt. But I said, I think iRaffer's done it again. And I don't mean winning game number 2. I mean amassing a team that can win a hell of a lot. Right now, when you look at what iRaffer made from the old, turned into Epsilon, the two-time world championship team, you had iRaffer, an incredibly gifted mechanical player, 2 people that would follow him, and then a homie. When you look at this Renegades team, Dardez, incredibly mechanically gifted player. Nika and Cherryo are going to listen to whatever iRaffer says. And Funball's there to kind of even it out. Also, Funball not only is incredibly gifted, but has a lot to prove. And that was also something that old I-5 Panthera Epsilon energy team had in common. They had a chip on their shoulder. This Renegades team has a whole lot going for them as far as talent, timing, X factor, chip on their shoulder, stuff to prove. I'm excited about this Renegades team.
I mean, the last time Funballer was on a really good team before this one in Season 6 was way back in Season 2 when he was with Trixtank and QvoFred under that Paradigm banner.
Yeah, yep. That was a fun squad. They certainly came out to play. A day late and $1 short, but unfortunately, this could be, or fortunately for Funball, this could be the second time. Renegades up now, 3,000 in their match point, 6-2, as we are just past the 2-minute mark, 2,300. My mistake. So Funball's had the time of his life here in this duo lane. The 1 versus 2 almost happened.
Now, the only reason why I thought he was fine originally was because he actually stunned out Trixtank as the dash was happening to prevent the monolith crash through, and I thought he was going to be able to just walk back to the tower. But instead, he turns that fight around. He wanted to fight that.
iRaffer mid lane. The purple buff was looked at by Cherryo, looking to go further. More importantly, place the vision. Ataraxia has no idea where anybody is and can't safely walk anywhere. And that's the atmosphere that Renegades has really created.
Uh-oh.
Qvo doesn't know Cherryo's here.
It's going to be a 4-on-3. Renegade's going to force the issue.
Surprise! QvoFred gets hit from behind, jumped on top, and where'd you go, buddy? Cherryo, number 3 for the jungler out of Egypt. The red buff looking to be taken. That's what'll happen. Cherryo versus Raxia. That's good enough. What a play. Cherryo all sneaky beaky like.
Renegades, they can either brute force you or they can solid snake you as well, using their cardboard box.
Yeah, you gotta love it, man. This is good SMITE. This is fun to watch. I am absolutely all the way about it. All the way about it.
3-0-2, by the way. 12 minutes in, being a part of 5 of the 7 kills that Renegades had. This is the dream start for Akali. And normally, at this point, I would phrase the question, can Renegades cleanly transition to the mid to late game? And the way they've been playing this best-of-5 set, I would say the answer is absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. You know, the last statement I want to make about iRaffer kind of building this team is that, in retrospect, it seems obvious, but, you know, all of those energy members wound up becoming superstars in their own right. Emil, one of the best hunters of all time. Yaman, my personal best player of all time, if you really, really ask me. Like, those players grew it, but we never, you know, seeing that team early on, you know, seeing this Renegades team early on, I can see that world. I don't.
Oh yeah,
I'm certainly getting ahead of Vice.
Because even in Season 2 Super Regionals, when we saw Panthera qualify, like we were still unsure of like, are they the real deal? We'll see how they do against Cloud9 at the time. And then once they beat Cloud9, we were like, oh, okay, they really are here to play. But this Renegade squad, since the start of Season 6. They did come a little bit later compared
sure.
to most other teams, but when they started, man, did they go on fire.
Yeah, and it was interesting kind of watching them kind of cool down and then step in here in the mid-season invitational and heat back up. I wonder if it's something that they can keep going or if it is something that has to kind of come and go in waves, because that's going to be the key. If Renegades can play like this every game out here, it's insane. Buff timing on lock. Red buff again to Renegades. Trixtank looking to fall for the first time this game. The third time by mistake. Funball, the dot does it. Nika diving on top of Ataraxia, zoning the players away. The red buff was already done, boys.
No need to try to overextend that time around. I think
GF?
they're going to be looking exactly for that objective, F-Dot.
Yeah, there it is, the Gold Fury. And again, Nika's ultimate already on cooldown, so that could be looked at as a bad thing to defend this Gold Fury. But Dignitas know that there's just nothing they can do right there in that moment. And the Fury taking it 14 minutes, shoves the lead up 42-42.
I mean, even if Dignitas show up in 4-on-5, who is stealing that objective from this draft of Dignitas? They don't have burst damage. They
No.
have more, like, damage over time from Hurriwind, a little bit of burst damage from QvoFred, but he has to get up close and personal, and he's only at level 12 without a secondary relic. It would be a very risky task.
In games like this for Dignitas, it's been variety that's taken them out of holes before with respect to the different rosters that we've seen this sort of team around.
Sure.
Like, it's usually variety. That's the guy that kind of digs them out. QvoFred and Trixtank, listen, as much as I love to watch these guys play during the regular season, this is not something that they're new to. Ataraxia narrowly escapes death with the beads. And so, variety on this Naja. Runic Shield, Blackthorn Hammer. Could do some carrying. Need to see it kind of soon. Slow down. As Dignitas start to chase Cherryo. Dardez with a perfect pillar. And disengage from the fight that never happened.
Whether it's using the pillar to set up a kill onto Ataraxia or peel for his teammates, I think mechanically Dardez can be considered maybe top 5 mechanical player currently.
He's certainly been impressive. Funball avoids the stun. It's 1 versus 3, but used to being outnumbered. Beads are chased out. There's a problem. Funball activates the ultimate, and here comes Ataraxia's great placement, and this is Dignitas biting back. Ataraxia with 1, and another goes down. And Dignitas, unfortunately, don't have a Gold Fury to turn to. Dardez does slow the team as they cross the street. Man, what a slow that shifting
Oh yeah,
stance is.
it is very obnoxious. I think it's like 30% at that rank variety. Stuns the wrong player.
And there's the knockup from iRaffer. Already low, blinks away. That's a team fight ultimate. That's a team fight ultimate. Dardez takes down Ataraxia. Raffer playing frontliner. Love the positioning. And Nika blowing up the team. 1 for the money, 2 for the show. Dardez already been done going. Middle lane gonna take some poke as well. And Renegades once more make it pop.
Let me remind the folks at home that Renegades just won that fight in a 3-on-5.
And QvoFred
Almost dies as well. Oh my god. A lot of that came down to just focusing the wrong player. Variety stunning out Nika. Full health. He was late to the party from that rotation, so he was definitely a force to be reckoned with. And yet again, Dardez with the impale onto Ataraxia, who used that beads earlier to prevent his earlier death, was just a sitting duck. That's the problem with Cernunnos. He's just too easy to take out without any CC immunity in his kit. So with no beads, no life.
Well, I love the Cernunnos selection here from Dignitas, keeping in mind that Hurriwind doesn't have a team fight ultimate. Obviously, Merlin has other things, but that Wild Hunt changes it. Funball 1 versus 2, not as happy as he was earlier on, brings both players down to half. That is worth something, but not worth enough.
Takes a little bit of time to receive the healing from Exorcism. Yeah. If he gets that off from those 2 players, Raffer was right around the corner. He could have probably shielded him if he got the healing and could escape, but too little, too late. Funballer, too frisky. He's in the tier 1 tower line, or right outside the tier 1 tower line at 17.5 minutes. I don't think that's the play. Gold Fury is about to respawn.
I got to agree there. You know, if he had like Fist of the Gods, he might have been able to do it.
Shout out to Fist of the Gods. Setting
Double
up,
stun.
Yeah, Nemesis. I remember
No.
it was like it was Frostiak and Shadow Nightmare that really portrayed its effectiveness. Old school season 2 Dignitas, I think,
Yeah,
where Shadow Nightmare played the Raw.
And it was the Raw and the Kukulkan. Fist of the Gods was an old active that would give you any character a 1 second stun. And they were able to, off the 1 second, just Kukulkan ult, Ra ult over and over. Frostiak would pick It Doesn't Matter because every character could buy a stun. No longer in the game, thankfully. But I'll tell you who is in this game. Renegades. 4,000 gold up, give or take. And they're just looking for a fight. I mean, we all got that friend that you go out with. It's just like, I'm so mad. They're just looking for a fight at the bar. Renegades right now, they're taking people's reds right in front of them. Dignitas are staring into the jungle, and Renegades are like, do it. Please do it. Ataraxia, do it, homie. All my friends are in the jungle. Renegades grouped up as 5, waiting for an opportunity to break down the Oni Fury, I think. Certainly looking for a fight first.
I think you have some aggressive friends there, Tom, because I don't know anybody that's looking to fight when they go out with me to the bar. Everyone's having a good time.
You don't hang out with Taco enough.
True. Well, she's always at home watching anime.
Renegades trying to be their own hero right here. 25% on the Oni, and yeah. Trixtank's going to show up. Renegades didn't have to leash it. They chose to, daring Dignitas to join the fray. Dignitas don't take the bait. You said before, discipline wins championships, and I got to give a shout out to Dignitas there. Renegades dangled, what do you always say? Like a big piece of juicy meat?
Yeah.
Just left that Oni Fury like, hey, it's 10%. You guys can take it. Hey, we're going to pull off it and hit Trixtank. You guys can take it. And Dignitas are like, no, we've seen this episode. You guys can have the Oni, and that's going to empower Renegades to push wherever they want.
The problem was Dignitas just weren't in position to contest it, and no one has steal potential.
Nope.
So if anyone from Dignitas, including Trixtank, steps up, they die just like that. Even with just the slows from Dardez' Shifting Sands, this is before the 2 Gem of Isolations about to be built out of Nika and Funballer.
You know, just the mind works in odd ways. And the reason I came up with that Fist of the Gods non sequitur was I was saying, you know, Dignitas just have no objective secure here. The best objective secure they have is Ataraxia's Wild Hunt, and that's because it forces other people to walk away. It doesn't actually secure the objective.
Yeah, it does no damage to minions.
And so if Renegades are able to kind of get up ahead and Cherryo, Dardez, 2 basic attack oriented characters, they're going to chew through anything. Dignitas have one of the worst advantages I've seen as far as composition is concerned with respects to objectives right now. Dignitas' objective dominance is fantastic if they're ahead. But if they're behind, there's nothing they can do.
But this could be a little dicey. Renegades forcing
I love
this Fire Giant this early on, but Dignitas, they're nowhere nearby.
And this is what I'm talking about. Dignitas, even if they were nearby, this is an uphill battle. Fire Giant here, and Trixtank going to show up. Renegades get the Fire Giant, and now they're looking for Trixtank, who's barely dashing away. Frenzy is popped defensively. Cherryo gets jumped on by Variety, and that's likely to be a kill. Just kidding. He's got an ultimate. So does Dardez. Variety hits the ground, and he will die. Number 12 for Renegades.
And Trixtank soon to follow. Funballer gonna run him down. Nika does get transformed and taken out, but QvoFred receives the healing. Should be looking for a flank on the backhand side. He's a little low. Renegades got what they wanted.
Nika down for a Fire Giant, totally good. QvoFred picking up Cherryo would be totally bad. Trade out. Still, that goes in Dignitas' favor. That is absolutely worth it. Getting the Fire Giant off of a 4-item Chinsai Kali is a requirement, I would say, for that fight. So I'm telling QvoFred to trade himself every time.
That was really close, though. That could have easily backfired if the stun was available from Cherryo, because the beats was definitely down from QvoFred. Regardless, though, Renegades capitalizing from Dignitas' absence on every single objective, and that's just because they're so behind experience-wise. Dardez, 4 levels ahead from Hurriwind, is the biggest disparity that I'm seeing here. The damage from this Anhur with 4.5 items deep. It's difficult if you're Dignitas to even get close to Dardez. Look at his player damage. It's not the highest because it's going to be actually the Jormungandr instead, but just his control with Shifting Sands is to be respected.
It's the Shifting Sands control, and player damage for me is I don't want to say misleading, but what happens with player damage a lot of the time is Dardez is low because there isn't any damage to be done. You've got the ultimates from Funballer and Nika who are largely bringing everybody from 100 down to, let's say, 50 or 40. And so all Dardez needs to do, ult a guy and he dies.
Yep.
Impale basic and he dies. And so Dardez isn't doing all the damage, but the relevant damage is coming out 4-0-3 for the French mid laner. You gotta love what Renegades is doing.
Certainly, and already, yet again, capitalizing on the juicy bait that was Nika on the left side of the map to clean out that one tower, expecting Dignitas to maybe concede the middle tower, but they're going to eventually have to hold their ground and look for any kind of farm that they can, especially onto Hurriwind. They need him to finish that Obsidian Shard before this next fight.
Hurriwind's the saving grace here for Dignitas. I mentioned before how usually in this situation we see that come out of Variety. I still think Variety can do it. I love the Shifter Shield purchase, by the way, as he goes into the Oni Hunter's garb. This is Variety identifying that he has to do some of the heavy lifting. Ataraxia is 4-2-2, and certainly, you know, putting up some respectable numbers. He's number 2 on the player damage for his team, but Variety knows he's going to have to contribute damage if this is how the squad is, if the squad is going to win the game. So I like the hybrid build for Variety, specifically for the choice of character that he brings. But will it be enough?
Also, the Runic Shield is so important to limit the effectiveness of this Jormungandr combination. I like that item. We talked about it earlier as the damage, not only from Variety is respectable, but now that Hurriwind has completed the Obsidian Shard, there is some defensive options, but not if QvoFred is in the mid lane. Although, to be fair, Cherryo split pushing the map, making it a 4-1 split.
Left side tower. This is a toe in the water from Dignitas. They'll clear the wave if they can do it safely, and they'll throw some basic attacks. But Dignitas is unlikely to really engage here on the tier 2, I'd say. A little bit of a quarter fight. Renegades blink too far, and iRaffer's going to try and catch him. Tier 2 tower belongs to Renegades.
QvoFred not going to be worried whatsoever either. Love the fact that Ataraxia was forced to use the beads there as Nika casually picking up the red buff that I believe Cherryo got earlier on. And that was the difference between a 4-on-4 versus a 5-on-5. I think Dignitas was going to defend that, knowing that Cherryo wasn't there, but the Kali can play too much of a cleanup that you don't want to give Renegades that opportunity. But then they kind of like feign like they were going to defend anyway, allowing iRaffer to get a great setup.
Well, that's exactly what I was saying. Dignitas with a toe in the water, they're like, wow, we're not going to defend this. We're going to security theory, right? And iRaffer goes, all right then, all right. If you're gonna bluff, I'm gonna call that bluff, and because the Blink Cataclysm is the whole thing, right? So iRaffer is just like, Dignitas aren't expecting iRaffer to blow everything, and he does anyway.
Oh, Nika without an ultimate gets caught out. Great CC chain out of Dignitas as the Fire Giant is about to spawn.
Perfect timing for Team Dignitas. That's how you get yourself back into the game. Who's stunned? Jormungandr? I'm telling you, Variety is the guy to bring Dignitas back into the action. Right in front of the team, the squad takes a tier 1. Nika died as soon as the Fire Giant went up. That is a bad look. That is the zone potential for Renegades.
Looking like a tier 2 potentially after the fact. iRaffer does have ultimate, but doesn't have his blink for 23 seconds. So
that was from the bluff they keep.
That's right. The tier 2 tower will probably go down. I don't think Renegades will. Okay, they are going to try to show some pressure, but look where Variety is in the back.
All the way on the backside. Funball just now gets vision. Cherryo's going to jump up and down on top of Trix. The minions taken care of.
Wow.
And Renegades successfully defend their tier 2, despite the fact that Variety goes around. That's Dignitas calling them off. They choose not to go for that tier 2. Do you like that call?
Oh, it should have been an earlier disengage. If you're not going to commit right away, like, it's such hesitation from Dignitas because they don't defend their tier 2 on the left. They don't engage in the tier 2 in the mid, and they're the ones getting engaged on. Cherryo blinks in, completely chunking away against Hurriwind, and then allowing the disengage. And because of that hesitation, now Nika's back, and it's a 5-on-5 again with Renegades still having the gold lead.
28 minutes in, and the Fire Giant dance afoot. We've seen this many times, but Renegades are one away from taking it home and moving on to the finals.
And the problem with Dignitas' relic selection is probably their ultimate demise because, like, okay, Variety can blink in, but he's only getting one target. QvoFred can blink in, but he's trying to play cleanup crew. That's his style that he's been using. I think Trixtank needed a blink in this game to be able to get off like a 4 or 5 player Terra ultimate to kind of match the power that a 4 or 5 player Cataclysm has from iRaffer.
Yeah, I mean the Terra, even the ultimate doesn't even bring the control. The ultimate just boosts what's going on. It's usually we used to see Terra was very popular when the Soul Reaver interaction was really silly, and we saw a lot of blink, monolith, dash, and that would blow players up. It also roots the whole squad, right? That could be the look, but
it's also mitigating the damage, which is important if you want your teammates to follow up from your blink ultimate.
Very true. I'm with you there. Trixtank with a blink might have been the do, but Nika's alive and well, and so Renegades seem to have the momentum one more time.
But the problem is that he needed Shell to deal with Kali. The upgraded Shell to absorb the basic attacks. Every support is picking up Frenzy these days because of what Aurora and PPM started to do in Season 6 Phase 1, kind of making their own meta.
The objectives were tough to do. Do Renegades want to wait 30 seconds, or do they need to force this now? It's an important decision.
That's true. You do want to wait for Enhanced Fire Giant if you are going to start it. iRaffer kind of baiting Dignitas to get a little bit closer as Cherryo's looking for a target.
There's going to be the jump off as it's fully leashed. Hurriwind is in trouble. Big heal for him, but there's a large ultimate from the Hunter. It doesn't seem to matter. Hurriwind goes down to the hand of Cherryo, but QvoFred bites back. Raxia blown up by the Ghostbuster, and here comes Nika. Knockups are avoided by Dignitas, but Trixtank dashes into a whole bunch of Renegades, and Renegades lets him exit stage right because Variety is their target of choice. 5 kills without a death for Dardez. It's a 1 for 3, and Dardez trying to force that into a 1 for 4. QvoFred on the escape. Renegades, the right side Phoenix is the target. 44, 21, 43, 28. Totally, yes or no?
They have minions. I say yes. This is where Renegades get the 3-0 sweep. QvoFred is up Hurriwind in 10 seconds. They're going for it, F-Dot.
This isn't guaranteed. We will have respawns. Hurriwind up in 4 seconds, and the defense already being done. 60% on the Titans so far. There's the halfway mark. QvoFred in the ground. 25%. Funball gets another kill. The Renegades in 3 easy games are going to the finals,
where they will face off against Splice, their scrim partners. What a dominating performance from the Renegades up against Dignitas that had such a great showing in the online portion, going 7-2, but their last 2 sets, F-Dot, they lost both of them up against Renegades and then up against E-United. The black and yellow squad seemed to be cursed at LAN.
Curse or not, I'm looking at the other side of the field. Renegades are playing incredible SMITE. This is special SMITE as well. Not only is it good and dominant and winning in quick fashion, you mentioned game number 1 was one of the most mechanically oriented games that we've seen in a long time. The way these players are playing together, this is a special team, Anatoly.
It really is, and a lot of it comes down to the backline. Funballer and Dardez playing the gods that they want, the character of choice between the mage hunter combination, and then allowing just a late game focus out of Cherryo to really seal the deal. I don't think Dignitas are too discouraged about losing that one on the look on their faces.
Yeah, you know, it was definitely a rough one for sure. I think Dignitas started to play well in that 3rd game. Game number 1, they were a little bit lost. Dignitas did find some adaptations, but none of them were enough to take a single game. 3-0, Renegades. Let's break it down with Hindu.
And that's exactly what it was. 3-0 to Renegades. Dignitas defeated. It was a best of 5. We upgraded them to best of 5s, but we didn't get many more games than we expected to. Ryan, what happened in that third game?
You know, it looked good. Everything was going well. I think the team comp looked much better for Dignitas. And really for me, well, Qvo had an awful early game again. But the big turnaround was Funballer's 2v1 in the duo lane. That really sucked all the wind out of Dignitas' sails, made it feel that in that moment, I think everyone in the building was like, this set is over. It's just one of those moments where it's really hard to come back from mentally.
Demoralizing, right? That's
Yes.
generally what you're after in that sort of situation there. The composition from Dignitas, though, did it do what you was intended to at least at the start?
Yes.
Well, at least the mid-game, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, Variety only does 9k damage on this Naja. I would have preferred to see Trix on it on the Naja instead. This was the play that I'm talking about. I mean, Funball's moving quite a bit, but he's not getting hit really at all. This is an insane play from Funballer, no doubt about it. But that he ultimately dies, but so does Trixtank. Ataraxia, you can tell, was really upset after that, and for good reason. That's a tough one to let go.
And then you still got more Dardez and her plays to cut your teeth on, so to speak. He's been doing that consistently throughout this whole tournament. I'm not sure if he's going to get a chance tomorrow, where they now have to go and face off against Splice in the finals.
Yeah, I'm sure Splice is going to be looking at that and saying, we don't think we should let him have it. It's just a little bit too strong. This fight from Cherryo wins them the game. He dies for it, but that's the Kali way. I'm choosing one person,
one for
and
one.
You are dying, no matter what. And if I get my huge heal, then you're all dying. And it wasn't his target, but it just sets Dignitas at such a disadvantaged state. They all have to clump up. They all have to try and peel for Hurry. And there's really not a whole lot you can do unless you're going to disarm him or polymorph him, but he still had beads. Just the CC didn't come through in time.
There was a lot of people as well talking about how they fancy Splice for this tournament overall. Do you reckon anyone's changed their tune at all with how Renegades have performed so far this tournament?
Yeah, I mean, Splice hasn't lost a game either, but Renegades have gone up against the stronger competition so far. I don't think that you can really make the argument otherwise. And they still haven't dropped a game. They swept PK, they swept Dignitas. I think Renegades kind of have to be one of the favorites tomorrow. I mean, either team could certainly win. I think Splice has looked great, but how do you not ride this wave of Renegades?
Well, let's go find out how Renegades are feeling about their performance today and how they're looking forward to the finals tomorrow.
Thank you, Hindu. I'm joined by Cherryo and Funballer. First off, congratulations on your very dominating win over Dignitas. You will now face off against Splice. It felt like every single game you guys got what you wanted in the draft. Is there something you could have done better in the draft, or was that perfect for you?
I think the draft was pretty much how we wanted. Maybe did some mistakes in one of the drafts, but I think we're happy with our comp every single game.
With performance, you guys know how well you played. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. I want your mindset, Funball. You're playing Zhong, you get ganked on the left side by 2 players. You do die, but you almost finish them off. What are you doing? What are you thinking in that moment?
I'm thinking, holy mushki, man! If I had red buff instead of Dardez, like I would have got 2 kills. I mean, you can't gank a Zhong and hope to survive, you know, like. So yeah.
And now you guys are facing off against Splice, your scrim partners. What kind of mind games are we going to be seeing from you two?
I think it will be very interesting picks and bans. Maybe you'll see stuff that isn't usually prioritized being picked really early. I did think they were the favorites to win MSI. Like if we faced them in the finals, like I thought they would come out on top from the upper bracket because we scrimmed them pretty much almost every day. So I'm not surprised they made it to the finals, and it should be some fun games.
I've been kind of running with this idea that, you know, it's a very talented team, but also you guys kind of get some extra juice because everybody's got a lot to prove. You know, Funball, you've got a storied history. Cherryo, we know your deal. I've got the pleasure of kind of talking to you personally, Cherryo. How much does this kind of success mean to you right now?
It means a lot. Like I always like didn't think it too good to be true to like get to a LAN finals or like be on a winning team for once, and I can't explain the feeling. Still, it doesn't feel real to me.
I mean, he hasn't even won a LAN game yet, so to be honest, I would just want like Cherry, Nika, Dardez to actually win a tourney, and obviously me and Raf have not won one in like decades.
Speaking of which, Funballer, question to you is like, how does it feel to now finally be on a winning team compared to your last 2 seasons?
I mean, you know, I'm not gonna give any disrespect to the boys because they're all chill and they're all boys. Lobster, my boy. And but it does feel nice to actually start winning again, and like I have so much freedom in this team to do what I want. Yeah.
Are you guys confident about tomorrow?
It's just gonna be scrims, isn't it?
It will be it's a clown fiesta.
Yeah, it's gonna be a clown fest, like Aurora and Cyclone. Like, I'll see you at scrims,
There's
man.
gonna be some good games.
Cloud Fiesta for sure. Dardez, or excuse me, Cherryo and Funball. Yeah, that's who you two guys are. Congratulations on your games. Renegades, good win.
And there you have it from the tournament so far today. Very interesting endeavor. Renegades advance on to the finals to face off against Splice. First thing to mention, though, the newer Olympus skins are available for you all at home. Doing these now because, well, the day went a little bit quicker than expected. Make sure you go and get your Discordia skin and your Mothman and Moose and Carb skin. But also the Chapter 2 of the Olympus is available. Complete all the quests in there. And you will actually get yourself the unlock of the Seraph Horus skin as well. So make sure you do those. Without further ado, let's have a little look at that bracket and see how this tournament has all played out. We started things off this week in the qualification stage, and now the quarterfinals and semi-finals have come to an end. 3-0 for Splice today against Armada, and 3-0 as well for Renegades, I should say, up against Dignitas, which sets us up tomorrow morning to see Renegades take on Splice. It will be a best of 5, and that'll be at 11 AM EST. And following that, tomorrow we'll also have the All-Stars Invitational opportunity in an event, and we'll see the teams get drafted momentarily. Today, we're not going to end the broadcast just yet. We're going to go to a quick wait screen, and we're going to break down and work out what's happening with the All-Stars event. After the break, we'll be back to find out which players will be playing in that tomorrow. So stay tuned.